Shut up and sit down.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast brought to you by Tacticam. Tacticam is the easiest way to share your hunts, to relive that experience, and they've got options for you on different price points from the solo all the way up to the 4K 5.0s. This week's podcast, we have a dual collaboration podcast with the Whitetail Distraction podcast. So Charles and Autin, great guys, PA hunters, so they're dealing with all of the pressure, dealing with, public lands, all different sorts of hunting pressure. I don't believe they can hunt on Sundays, just, all kinds of similar things to the same topics that we talk about here on our podcast. They have more of a hunting story style podcast. They don't get into tactics, although they do have some guests that are very accomplished hunters and real good guests that talk about tactics and things like that. So this one's got all sorts of different audio, some audio from them, some from us, back and forth. Some great saddle talk, arrow building, bows, preferences, a little bit of fishing, kind of cover everything on this one. So it's definitely a fun podcast, fun to talk to guys that are doing the same things that we are, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. Quick shout out to our latest Patreon, Sam Van Andel. Thank you so much. Sam is now entered in for our quarterly giveaway. This quarter, we're giving away to one of our Patreons, which right now, if you exclude friends and family, people that can't win, you still have a better than 1 in 50 chance to win. And we're giving away a Traeger. It's the Traeger, I believe, 575 with Wi-Fi. So we're going to be giving that away. So think about that on this holiday weekend as you're grilling out and you're running out of propane and waiting on that charcoal. We're giving away a grill. So if you want to support us, support the show, kind of help us move things forward, consider doing that. You can check that out at patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. But if that's not for you, just tell somebody else about the show, and definitely go and check out the Whitetail Distraction podcast. Charles and Autin, like I said, they got a great podcast, but they've got probably one of the coolest intros that I've ever heard. So, definitely something to check out, worth it just for the intro alone. But, tell somebody about the podcast, tell somebody about what we're doing. If you really like what we're doing, give us a rating, review us on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and check out our YouTube, subscribe to that. All those things help us out tremendously. But we just want to thank you so much for listening. We appreciate everybody that listens. Thank you so much, and enjoy the episode.
All right, guys, so what's going on? We are here today, the four of us, a little podcast on podcast. We have the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast, doing a little co-op with us, the Whitetail Distraction podcast. You guys want to go around? This is Charles talking. We want to go around the room and kind of introduce ourselves and maybe our podcast and go from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm Adam Miller from the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. And we're just a couple of guys. John will introduce himself here in just a moment, but we're out of Michigan, just regular dudes who like bow hunting, even though I'll speak for myself when I say that I'm not very good at it. And we just got into this space because, everybody was talking about all this stuff they were killing. And we were like, there's nobody out there talking about what they're not killing or like what they're missing or how to get better at it. So I think we represent the everyman who's trying to get better and is not posting 140s, who's not sitting in their quote unquote, who doesn't even have a rack shack to show off. So I think that's a little bit about myself and kind of who we are.
I can dig it, man. I'm Austin Schweitzer, one of the hosts of the Whitetail Distraction podcast. Yeah, man, I'm in the Rack Shack right now, and it is pouring outside. We're in Pennsylvania, so the weather's nice here all the time. But yeah, we kind of got into this whole space because we just both love hunting and we both love podcasts so much. So really, it just kind of made sense to us to do that. And then, I don't know, we just kind of focus more on stories rather than tactics. Now, that's not really to say that we don't have tactics on our show. We just don't. It's not really tactic-based. It's more story-based. And, you know, we get most of the, like, our friends on. We get guys from Pennsylvania, try and keep it close to home a little bit. But then we also get bigger names on our podcast, like the Bowhunter Chronicles, you know?
And there's no bigger name than this guy that I'm going to introduce right now. This is John Boersma from the Bowhunter Chronicles. How are you doing tonight, John?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm Adam's co-host who doesn't talk much, so you might get a few words out of me here and there.
I like it.
We're just the average guys. Just, our podcast started in my garage basically because Adam would come over and we'd sit out in the garage and just talk about bow hunting and what we need to do, or what we think we need to do. And finally he's like, well, hey, you want to start a podcast? I mean, we talk about stuff anyway. We might as well record it. And so that's kind of how ours got going. And it's been what, 2?
Yeah, 2 years plus. Yeah.
Over 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I started talking a little finally after about episode 99.
Yeah, getting a little comfortable now, huh?
Yeah. Now, if we're talking about, stuff that, Bo, Adam says, I like to geek out on, archery equipment. That's where, I guess that's where my confidence, leads me. So,
Yeah.
I'm talking about tuning bows or building arrows, then I can, it comes easy. But otherwise, Adam.
Yeah, you got to find your comfort level, man. You got to find your comfort level. That's for sure. All right. Well, Charles Headland here at the Whitetail Distraction Podcast. Adam and I kind of got together on this through the First Light Hunting Journal page through Facebook page that we're a part of. And, Gerald reached out and kind of challenged us all to be more of a spread out against different platforms and, kind of boost each other up is what he intended. So that's why we're here. And, our podcast is funny because Autin and I are probably two of the most technical hunters, and we rarely ever talk about it because I guess from our perspective, it was always, we don't want to ever tell anybody how to do it or what to do. There's plenty of podcasts out there that are going to be that way if you really want to go down that route. We were more interested in taking the same thing. We every time we got together, it was talking about hunting and sharing stories, and we loved listening to podcasts. We talked about podcasts, and then finally it was like, why don't we just do this? Why don't we do it? We might as well throw some stuff out there. And like I said, we're going to have fun with it. And at the end of the day, we're having fun, and we get to meet new people. We get to meet you guys. And yeah, it's a blast, man. I love podcasting.
Well, I really like doing this because, so it's 100% self-serving, right? So I get to do something that I like and talk about hunting. I get to ask questions that I legitimately want the answers to because, like I said, I'm not the greatest bow hunter. I don't claim to be. And what I've learned through all of this is that's kind of disingenuous because, we're talking to a lot of guys that really appreciate what we're doing, but they're still chasing that first buck or that first bow kill, or they're just getting into it and they don't really know where to start, and then somehow they stumble upon us, and we're just regular guys, but we try and talk to some of the best people that we possibly can. I mean, obviously that's why we're talking to you guys tonight, right? But we're just trying to get to those answers, but at the same time, when you're talking to somebody like you guys, we have the same mindset. We have the same struggles. We know what it's like to get halfway through a podcast and have your equipment crash, or try to upload something and then shit goes awry, or bad phone connections, or trying to do things like this. And you see people that are progressing, or that are doing something innovative or doing something different is in the podcasting space, and you're like, man, we could do that, or there's something else. So I listen to podcasts, and I love to interact with other podcasts and other guys like this, so that I can be motivated and be accountable and kind of see everything that's out there. And there's not a lot of competition, really. I don't see it like that, but it actually like drives us to be better and put out a better product. But when we talk a little bit about competition, I believe it's Autin, who's in some sort of a yakking for bass competition, who got beat by his wife last year. So he's trying to figure out how to
dude,
beat her or something.
I actually got her by 1/4 of an inch. I just want to make that clear. She was kicking my butt the whole competition, though. She is actually a fantastic fisherman. So, yeah, that tournament actually starts tomorrow, the second year of it. And she's 9 months pregnant, and I think we're going to go kayak fishing tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah. So that's another one of the things is doing a little bit of research on who your guests are.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate the kick in the gut.
Yeah, poor Austin's wife had to deal with that 1/4 of an inch all year long. Oh, Austin.
Oh, I hate you.
Kind of set yourself up for that one.
Yeah. You got me there.
Oh, man. It is a fun bass tournament fishing, though. I'll tell you what. Last year, man, I got involved in it, and it took me over the edge for kayak fishing. I never got that involved before, and it was a lot of fun. Went out and bought a kayak, and I'm looking forward to it this year, but turkey season's not nearly over yet. We're not even halfway at this point, and I am stoked to keep chasing those birds around them.
I joined it last year, but then I never even made it out in a kayak. Maybe once.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That happened to a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of people we even know that signed up and they just never got into it, never found the time to do it. It's a busy time of the year for a lot of people too. A lot goes on in the summer.
Yeah. Well, it's still pretty cold up here. And, that, I think we had talked to Walt, like right before he kind of talked me into it, right before it started. And I'm like, how are we going to compete, us Michigan guys, up here in the Great White North, compete with the Southern guys with them, 10-pound bass. They're going to go over and it's like, well, it's just measurement. I'm like, well, still, them suckers grow all year long down there. They go dormant up here.
Oh, it can be done, dude. It can be done.
It's still fun.
We had Pennsylvania in the lead for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they got third, so.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but like he makes a good point. Their fish aren't living under ice for months out of the year.
That's true.
Right.
I mean, hell, it just snowed here last week, so I killed my turkey in the snow. It can get pretty crazy. I mean, the bass are still hitting, but man, it's and they wanted to move it up even earlier this year. This happened to be a delay just with everything going on, and I think it works out better for us, but. For the best of the competition, it's all for fun in the end, really. I mean, it's donating to a good cause, and it's about having a blast and getting out and fishing with your buddies.
Yeah. Actually, I went walleye fishing 2 nights ago, and it was 28 degrees.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It was miserable.
You doing any good?
We got one each in the boat, so
man.
It's not a very good night.
No.
I'm not a fisherman, so it wasn't me.
Come on, man.
Adam hates fishing.
I like fishing when it's like I don't know what's going to be on the end of the line. So if I like saltwater fishing is a completely thing. But I think growing up in Michigan and I mean with ponds and the big lake and everybody having a boat and like salmon fishing is boring. Steelhead fishing I can get behind. I like salmon fish or steelhead fishing. I don't mind trout fishing. I just don't have time for it anymore, or I don't make time for it. But these guys, they love walleye fishing, and they like to eat walleye. I don't mind eating walleye, but I mean, it's like dragging in a fucking boot or something. I mean, you get a you get a dogfish or a pike or something, and you're excited about it, like, oh, it's a good one, and then it's like, oh, junkfish, da, 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 da. And then you reel in a planer board that has a walleye on it, and it's a big old high fives all around. It's like, that's bullshit, you know? That's not exciting to me.
That's not how
It's like foul hooking a 2x4.
Right.
Well, like when I fish at night, I don't use planer boards. I'm just doing one. It's like I tell Adam, it's like I'm hunting them down. I'm, micro fishing. Just trolling one rod, and I got it in my hand. I'm always, jigging when they hit. I feel it, and they fight pretty good. It's not like dragging in a board on a big board rod. And, meat fishing is what I call that.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun too. I mean, you can go out and troll around with your wife and, buddies, and, catch a couple dozen fish in a day and, get a freezer full. But going out at night, just like last week, my son and my daughter went out with me, and, we ended up with like 5. And that's a good night, or over 2 nights. But
Yeah.
it's a little more fun than just dragging a rod with a planer on it.
No, I'm with you on that for sure.
Charles got a coon tree over there.
I got a beagle, about a 1-year-old beagle who thinks he's a squirrel dog. And everything that comes anywhere near the house, they want to bark at between him and my lab. So I do apologize for that one. With our social distancing and good behavior here, everyone's stuck at the house. I'm not at the rack shack tonight, recording with Austin. But I hear you guys. I was just listening to your podcast about your turkey season, man. You guys want to? I know you covered it, but if you want to touch base a little bit on that, it seems like you doing pretty good, huh?
Well, like for me is I didn't have the first season, so I've just been the cameraman, and I've been enjoying that. I'm a better cameraman than I am a hunter, I think.
Well, you had first season last year. You had your
yeah, and I wasn't a very good fucking hunter then either.
No, me and Ernie both, we ended up, we got our birds on opening day. It just turned, luck of the draw. We got our opportunities and, made our shots count. But it was a good season so far. I mean, Frank killed one. Adam's had had birds in front of him, had one opportunity that was a little, it was a long shot. So was it, but
we're hunting with bows too. Like all of our seasons would have been done. I mean, my season would have been done as soon as it started with a gun. I mean, it would have been immediately over.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, whether you were doing it with a gun or whether you guys were shooting your bows, because, I mean, it is Bow Hunter Chronicles, so.
Yeah. And like, this season has been, like, for me, it was cool because, Frank and Ernie, my father-in-law, him and his best friend, and my father-in-law is, like, the color commentary of our podcast. I wish I had one. They're upstairs. Frank's upstairs, but I made some stickers of him, like of his face, of him, from one of his hunts where he missed this nice Michigan buck, but he videoed that whole hunt, and then he's an excellent caller, so I picked up on that. I never hunted turkeys before him, and I joked on one of our earlier podcasts, that I'd try shooting a turkey with a trad bow this year. John was like, no, you won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. You need to kill one with a wheel bow first, blah, 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 blah. Well, I've been getting so frustrated that I've thought about bringing a shotgun, and John's like, I'll strangle you. Like, I will not allow you to bring a shotgun. And I just set up this really nice, like I bought one of the Stevens 301 410s that I set up for my 4-year-old daughter, and my wife's been using it. And she's still got a bird to kill, and my dad is actually got a tag as well. But, opening day, I had 3 long beards at 35 yards that I could have shot them with a gun. I could have shot them with a bow, but they were coming right towards the decoys, and my brother was filming for me, and he hit the leg of the tripod, and boom, alarm putt gone. I had two opportunities now where I think with a trad bow it would have been a little bit easier. The hunt John's talking about, I don't know. We just recorded this podcast the other night. I haven't even produced it yet, but so long story short, we watched this bird for 2 hours, and I mean, the one video that John's got is 45 minutes long of this bird just strutting across his field back and forth, back and forth. And finally he goes over this ridge, and John, so we're doing the social distance thing. John's outside of the tent. I'm in the tent. Frank's behind the tent calling. John's videoing. His buddy Ernie is in a chair just hanging out, just being part of the experience. John gets out of where he's filming from. We're in this private field with a box blind. John climbs up in the box blind, looks over this hump, and he's like, that turkey's still down there strutting with this hen. I think you can just run over there and shoot this turkey. Or, not just sit here and wait, So, like, okay. So he gets up in the box blind with a camera. He's set. I'm set. I run over there, run up to the edge, and I can see his fan. I'm down on the ground. And then I'm like, well, holy shit, what am I going to do? So I'm just low crawling. And John, set the stage on what is in this field, because, there's nothing. From your perspective.
And then the lay of the land, it goes down, comes back up, and there's a little ridge. And then there's like a bowl on the other side, goes down into the lowland, but there's little tufts of grass. It's like bear grass, almost little balls of grass. And that was like the only thing that was helping Adam out, like, because from their perspective, like his head could have been one of them balls of grass.
Yeah, and that's it. And so I'm crawling up as close as I can get, and I'm trying to range, but I'm ranging through these little things of grass, so it's like impossible to get a range. Then I get up, I get them ranged at like 43 yards, and they're coming to me. And meanwhile, Frank can't see him. He's still in the woods, and he's still calling. So these fucking things are like working their way towards me, and I'm going, this is terrible. Like, this is not what I need. These turkeys to run right over me. So I set my pin to 40, and because they're still working their way towards me. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get my opportunity here. So I'm laying flat on my stomach, and I draw the bow. Okay, got the bow drawn. Well, that's a terrible idea, because now there's no way in hell I can let this bow down, and I got to lay on it. So I'm like, oh, shit. And then I can peek my head up, and I'm still trying to keep this bow drawn and make sure that it doesn't go off, And the hen works her way to probably like 25 yards from me, because I think she saw me draw, and there used to be two hens, and one of them worked her way off, so I don't know if she saw the movement and was just coming to check it out, but she got way too close to me, and she didn't alarm putt or anything, and she turned around and started working her way back away. So I was like, all right, well, this is going to be my opportunity. So she's working her way, and meanwhile, John, for whatever reason, he's videoing the hen, so he doesn't video me drawing or anything. And then, okay, so John, from your perspective again.
So what happened was that first there was two hens the whole time, and when they got over that ridge, the first time I climbed up, I could see both the hens were just working on that bowl, around that bowl, and that Tom just kept going back and forth, strutting between them. Well, then when I got back up the second time after I went back down, told Adam, hey, we need to do something. I got up there. I seen the other hen, like, she just took off, went off on her own, like, straight away. And then that's when the Tom really started getting worked up, because then he had just that single hen. And what he was doing, he just kept circling her. And then she'd lay down and he'd come up and she'd pop up. And that's when Adam was trying to crawl up, get on top of that mound. And so, I'm probably 125, 150 yards away. quite a ways. So I'm zoomed all the way in on the camera. So I'm trying to get like Adam for a minute, and then I'd get the birds because I wanted to show what Tom was doing. And so I was zoomed in on him, and then you can see that hen. All of a sudden, she, like Adam was saying, she seen something, so she kind of got alert, started going like towards him, and then all of a sudden she knew. She's like, turn. And for some reason, I stayed on her until she got down in the woods, and I'm thinking, like, oh man, this is going to be his opportunity, but I'm not even paying attention to like the camera's doing at this point. I'm like looking. Matter of fact, in the footage, you can see the camera just kind of stops for a second, and the hen had walked out of screen, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I zoomed out, and I luckily got to it zoomed out in the frame. Then Adam's up on his knees with the draw, bow full draw, and then you see the arrow fly and end up,
Yeah, so I waited. She was going away from me, and I waited till his fan turned, and he was faced away from me, and I just popped up onto my knees, and I put it like right midway in his fan, because he was at one point was 43, and I'm at 40 on my pin. I'm at full draw. I can't range. I can't do it. There was no time to adjust. And so I just let it fly, and it went right between his legs, just skipped right between his legs. And then I actually knocked another arrow, and by the time I knocked the other arrow, he started running, but he didn't know what happened. He never even looked back. So, I mean, it was really cool, and it was one of those things like where we just made it happen. But that's what I'm saying. Like I ended up stalking another turkey a couple days later, and if I would have been able to just, not when I had 5 jakes in front of me at 25 yards with no blind or anything, and I was like, there's no way that I can draw this bow, and because only one of them was really in like that I was in shooting space. They were all in brush and shit. But I was just thinking, with a trad bow, I could just, I would have been a little bit more, instinctual than having to fucking. Yeah, I just missed them, with a better excuse than what happened. But like I said, after the fact of that, I didn't feel like bad about because I miss stuff all the time. It's not like a new thing for me.
That was just a cool hunt altogether, though. I mean, watching the birds as long as we did, and then, making something happen.
Yeah, we made the most of it.
I like it, man.
That's tough with a bow, man. That's one thing we just haven't done, really. Me, personally. I know Austin's chased them a couple times, but
I missed one last year with
something about... Yeah, you did. There's something about putting pellets to a face for me that it really does it. And I haven't killed enough birds in my day to get to the bow yet, but I don't know. I thought about it this year. I've killed 2 so far, and I've just been filming a lot. So I don't know if I go back out. Maybe I've been carrying the shotgun, but more and more I'm just carrying the camera and following someone around. But I'd like to do it. I kind of want to decap them. I want to do the headshot on them, because that's what worries me is, you hit them, you wound them, and they get away. I don't want to wound any animal,
Right. And that was what I was doing this year. So, we, with my hunt, we set our decoys up close within 10 yards.
Yeah.
That way they hang up. And so I built my own arrows for the Magnus bullhead. So, lop their head off.
Oh yeah.
And I end up using my target bow basically because it's 60 pounder. Because when you build those arrows, or even if you buy the bullhead arrows pre-made, you got to have a low pounding bow because of the planing.
Oh, okay.
It's like a propeller on the front of it. So there, I ended up building, like full length Easton Axis 260s but I went kind of overboard. I did a 6 Fletch 4-inch vein.
Super interesting.
Isn't it?
And with that 125 grain head, arrow ended up being 35 inches, tip to tip.
Oh man.
660 grains, so it was packing quite a punch. But I got it flying good, had my bow sighted in, so the opening opening day that afternoon. Our morning hunt didn't turn out. We ended up, I had roosted some birds the night before, and we, I kind of figured where they were at, and we started walking in the dark, and I had showed Adam, like, okay, I think the birds are here, so we need to walk down to here. Walking in, and I'm like, all right, I need to check this. So I looked on my base map. I'm like, oh, shit, we're, like, too close. We need to back up. Well, we backed up, set up, and we ended up setting up 35 yards under the birds.
Oh,
so,
man.
They're up strutting in the tree above us. Like, and I didn't sound like they were on the ground at that point because I'm in a tent. Here I set up the tent, and that's not quiet. And, put the decoys out. But
yeah, we were under them when we backed up. I mean, if you going, yeah, where do we need to be?
So I got lucky and I did pinpoint them the night before, just by dumb luck. I'm like, I think they're about right there. Well, they were exactly right there. But so that didn't. They come down, they gobbled. We were, seeing them, had birds gobbling for like 2 hours after daylight. But so Frank and Ernie got his bird. They were done by 8:00, and so we ended up going back, regrouping at Frank's house, the studio. Then we went to this other little chunk of private, and we ended up pushing. We got in there, and here's 4 guys, 4 trucks, pulling in little private, and then we're all walking in single file, doing our social distancing. And Frank and Ernie had set a tent up in there like a few days prior to that. And then I was bringing my tent in, so Adam was going to film out of the tent that was there. I'm hunting out of my tent, and then Frank is calling, and then Ernie was doing he was supposed to be filming too. And so they're back behind us on a log, and we ended up bumping birds as we got in there, but we were just, they didn't alarm putt or anything. We just kind of pushed them off. So we got in, set up, and Frank just started calling. I was frustrated at this point. I'm like, man, I call it dilly dicking around. Frank's the king of that, just dilly dicking. And it's like, we should have been here an hour ago instead of sitting around watching all the video at the studio. So
yeah.
Anyway, I'm sitting in my tent, and our listeners probably already heard this part of it, but I was kind of pissed off. I'm like, man, we pushed the birds out. I end up sitting down in there. Didn't even get my shit all together right. I eat a sandwich, and all of a sudden I hear birds coming. Like I can tell, Frank's calling. But then I heard, like, that's a real bird. I looked up. Sure enough, there's 2 hens and a jake coming in. I'm like, the birds are coming back. So at that point, that's all I seen. So I didn't even have my face mask on. I still had my camouflage sweatshirt on, which I normally have a black shirt being in the tent.
Yeah. So
I pull my face mask on and turn the cameras on. I have a wall camera, and then I had a Tacticam on my bow, and get everything ready, and all of a sudden it's just like, it sounds like they're coming between us. They're this close. It's like, and I look, and here's 3 longbeards come out from right next to Adam's tent. I'm like, oh.
I could have grabbed them.
At that point, like, as soon as I seen them, then I just started drawing my bow back real slow, because I'm like, they're going right to we had a Jake decoy and a hen out, and those 3 gobblers went right to that Jake decoy, and they just started strutting around, and then, so at that point I'm like, well, I was going to shoot the one on the right close to the decoy, but he kept turning around, and I'm like, oh, and so in the video from in the tent, you can see me, I'm drawing back, and I keep I'm going back and forth, because I shoot diagonally out of my tent.
Okay.
Because I'm 6'3" and have a real long draw length, and that 35-inch arrow, I had to have some room in there. So I got the corner post that I have to go back and forth to shoot around. And then I'm thinking, what bird's Adam on? Like, is he on the one on the left or the one on the right, in the middle? And finally, the one on the right ends up, he turns around and he's like full strutting, like right at me. So I just put the pin right in the middle of his throat, between his head and his beard, and let her fly. And it hit him a little bit low and just like sliced the side of his throat. But it hit him like, I mean, it was like a Mike Tyson throat punch. Like that thing, it just hit him and he falls back and he turns around, but he takes off and like goes over here about 10 yards. And the one thing that I always tell Frank and all these guys, I'm like, always have a second arrow ready. Like, and that's what happened with Frank. Missed a bird last year, shot right through his tail feathers, and he would have had another shot, but you can actually hear it in the video. He's clicking around trying to get in second arrow out of his quiver. I'm like, you need to have that arrow ready. Well,
because John was pissed.
He pissed off, like, we ain't gonna see no damn birds. Now we spooked them out of here. Well, I just took my quiver off and threw it against the side of the tent. So you can actually see me in the video. I like drop my release, grab an arrow, and just rip it out. Well, my secondary arrow was the same arrow, setup, except for I put a dirt nap, the shred head on it.
Oh yeah.
That way, for a second shot, I wasn't going to be, trying to head shoot him.
Yeah, you're just trying to get one in there.
Yeah, get another one in him. So I'm like, well, he was sitting there and he looked kind of, he was messed up.
Sick.
Yeah. And so I grabbed the second arrow and then back, and I had to get up on my knees and shoot out the side window and then, put another one right in him. And meantime, Adam, like, the angle is perfect because his tent was right to my right. And so he had like jumped up and got the camera like at the perfect angle. You can just see the arrow coming out, and it looks like a green golf ball. You can just see it spinning.
That's awesome.
Looks like a 12 ring, but it was actually and the one thing with the shooting birds with a bow is if you're going to err, you want to err on the high side because it looked like a perfect shot. And when I cleaned that bird, it was basically all breast.
Oh man.
I shot him right through and it broke his breastplate. And so the actual killing was the first arrow.
Yeah.
Like when you watch the video and playback, he's standing there and the blood's just kind of shooting out of his throat. So that's what killed him.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So that's kind of why I think Charles is on that game of shooting him with the decap. Like you either clean miss or you are killing them,
Right. And my arrow, like when it hit him, it hit him so hard it broke one of the blades off, and I think that was why it didn't. It took a huge tuft, like all of his feathers off the side as it went up.
Yeah.
And in slow motion, you can see the arrow that looks like an S. Like, it's pretty gnarly on the power that it dissipated into that bird. But had it not, if I wouldn't have like cut his throat like that, he would have been just missing some feathers. It wasn't,
Right. Yeah, I think that's where the appeal for me is. It's not about the gruesomeness of chopping a turkey's head off with an arrow or anything. It's just the fact that the humane thing to do and the ethical thing that when you shoot them, it's one of two outcomes. You're either going to clean miss or you might, tough them up or something. But typically if you hit them in the right spot, you take the right shots, it's going to be a pretty clean kill. So I'm looking into it. Maybe next year.
It's
I don't
like
know. We'll see.
Ernie on his bird, he shot his at 17 yards, and he was, shooting a 2-blade rage, and he made a perfect, 12 ring shot. That bird didn't go like 14 yards and never even flopped, just cut the top of his heart right off. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got nothing wrong with that either, by any means. It's just I think the way I would want to do it, probably try to chop its head off. Just like I said, I think that'd be more my cup of tea. But I'm not opposed to putting a nice wide cut broadhead through one either. I definitely would do my research, and you got to do the background on it. Do your research, look at the anatomy, study it, study your aiming points at all different angles, because the target's so small. You're aiming at such a small area that you really got to get them good to kill them and then recover them.
Yeah, see, like 2 years ago, I bought those Magnus bullheads. It was 2 seasons ago, and I was shooting my regular hunting bow at the time, and I couldn't get them to fly good out of the bow, so it wasn't like I'm not even going to risk it. And so I ended up buying these 4-inch expandables, and those
4-inch expandables.
4-inch. I think they're technically a crossbow arrow, but I ended up, that bow. I ended up having my 80-pound limbs on it, so I'm shooting 80-pound limbs. And
God bless you.
It's that 4-inch expandable, 165 grains. So I'm like, well, they'll definitely do the trick. But
no shit.
I never got a bird in range, last year.
Real close.
Yeah, they came in around 60, but
We had 5 guys, no blind, camera, collar, 2 bows, and the real hen just took them away, but they came in twice.
Oh yeah, you can never compete with those real hens, man. They're you just gotta scare them off. You know.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
We had one. We had one this morning. Myself and 2 buddies. I ran the camera. We had one buddy on the gun and another one back behind calling. And man, it just happened all too fast. When we first got in there, we had him gobbling off the roost, and we got in and probably got about we got right on the edge of the boundary to where we had permission. He was on private ground that we didn't have any permission on, and gobbling his head off. And of course, he just stayed pretty much hung up at 100 yards. So we moved down. He was working down like a ridge, basically. It was pretty flat, but you had swampy area on one side, you had a big open field on the other side, and then there was just a strip of hardwoods that was just gorgeous, scratchings all through it. And it eventually turned right and met up with our property, so we just took the line the whole way down. Ended up catching up to that bird. He fed off with the hen. We had that hen so pissed off out of the roost. He was double, triple, quadruple gobbling at us. We were having a cackling war back and forth, and we ended up getting all the way up on him, and we just kept calling as we got closer. Well, he started. I think we got the hen curious. She started to come in. We went to set up. He got too close too quick. We were one tree away from getting set up perfectly, and there was a big down log with a big root mass hanging out. And we ended up getting set up behind it on a tree, which I knew was going to be an issue. And sure enough, what's that pawn do? He comes in and he struts just behind that log. You can see the top of his tail fan the whole way, back and forth along that log at 25 yards. And then the hen came in behind him. And the hen came and it basically fed right up to us. And then she turned around, and what we didn't know at the time, because we've never hunted this property before, there's a 4-wheeler trail that we didn't see. And she hit that 4-wheeler trail coming right to us. She lost interest in it, and our buddy calling back behind us. She took off up the 4-wheeler trail. He never broke strut the whole time. Really cool bird, and I hope tomorrow we have a plan to go get him, because you can't misidentify him. He has a huge gap in the middle of his tail fan. He's missing probably a feather or 2. Just a beautiful. I mean, this is a giant bird. His tail fan's huge, and I had him all over camera. I could have killed him 100 times, but my buddy was on the left side of the tree. I was on the right side of this giant tree, and sure enough, I had all the shots in the world, and he didn't have any. And they ended up literally that hen turned. Once she went, he followed. I mean, he didn't care anymore. He didn't care that we were calling back behind us. He no interest. He was going wherever that hen was going. And man, it was a close call, boys. It was a close call today.
Poor Tanner.
It's crazy. Yeah, poor Tanner.
Poor Tanner.
He had a rough day today. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, John had that same thing.
Though.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Adam. I want to go back to the building of the arrows thing, man. If you guys want to jump off the turkey talk, because I know you kind of covered that a lot in your episodes. How in the hell do you fit 6 fletchings on a single arrow, for one? And is this the only time you've tried 6? You usually shoot 4, I'm guessing?
I usually shoot 4, but I've built a bunch of 6 Fletch arrows.
Didn't you build one with more?
What's that?
Didn't you build one with more? Or you were talking about trying to get 8 or...
I actually got some new vanes. I got the PM23s, which I have a nice small base, and I'm pretty sure I can get 8 on an Easton Axis. I can for sure get 8 on like a Carbon Express.
Wow.
But so, I mean, it's with like, I normally shoot the AAE Max Stealth, and they usually have a really wide base. So when you do a 6 Fletch with those, there's basically, if you look at it, you see no shaft in between the vanes. They just fit. But what you do is, like, I use a Bitzenberger jig, so you put it on your 3 vane standard, and you do 3 vanes. You fletch it up normal, and you let it dry, and then you just take it off, spin it 180, and put it back on, and then you do your other 3. So it's super simple. It's way simple.
What kind of helical you putting on this?
It's like, I use a right helical jig, and then I have probably a 1 degree offset. What I do is I just, with the Bitzenberger, it doesn't have any actual gauge on the offset, but I just move it until I get the perfect lay on the shaft. Yeah. And then I don't ever mess with it after that. And I pretty much only shoot Easton Axis, but it works for all the other arrows too. Nice. So yeah, I have some target arrows with the tiny 2.0s, and those are pretty cool. I like red, white, and blue. You spin it looks purple, but
I like that.
And I made some for the Total Archery Challenge a couple years ago. I made up a whole set with the Easton Axis with those same 2.0s. And
you've had that
as a
6 Fletch, yep.
And you've had that one arrow forever with all white that looks like a golf ball.
Yeah. And those are the fusion vanes, and that's actually what I put on these turkey arrows. The very first 6 Fletch I did was with white 3-inch fusion vanes. I still have it, and I still shoot it every once in a while, but the one year up at Total Archery Challenge, I mean, it was so windy, and all my other arrows were getting, just blown all around. So I put that on, and it was getting blown around, but it would end up like tracking back, and I was hitting my spot. So, and it looked like a white golf ball flying through the air.
That's wild.
That was going to be my next question, basically, was how, because you mentioned Total Archery Challenge, those are pretty long distances.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about a 6 vane. That's a lot of wind drag, I would think, but you're saying otherwise.
Yeah, it's, I got the idea from listening to a podcast with, John Dudley, Knock On.
Oh, yeah.
Knock On. And Mike Slinkard. And, well, was it not? It's not Randy Elmer, but pretty sure it was Mike Slinkard, and he's done all kinds of testing on, like, the most quiet. See, he's from Oregon, so they have to use fixed blade broadheads. Mm-hmm. And so he did all kinds of testing to find out, like, different configuration, different vanes, every different manufacturer, 3 Fletch, 4 Fletch, and 6 Fletch, and he actually uses a 6 Fletch fusion. 4-inch fusion, and that is his most accurate and this guy shoots a lot of long distance stuff. He's that's how Dudley and him know each other, is from shooting competition years ago. Yeah. And he's actually the guy who he started Winter Choice Bowstrings. Now he sold that out. Now he has the hex suits, which we wear those all turkey season. And I have to say I had some pretty good luck this year. That I think if I wouldn't have been wearing my hex, I wouldn't have got some.
I am very hesitant of the hex suit.
I sat outside the blind when I was filming for Frank, and I had a Tom come in 10 steps from me. Like, when we got done, I got off, and I was sitting on just my little tripod chair outside the tent next to it, and I had a little fabric netting around, like, my bottom half, but I'm literally sitting up. I'm 6'3", so when I'm sitting on that little chair. I had my tripod with the camera in front of me. I just was knelt over the camera, but I'm turning my head and I'm talking to Frank. Like, Frank, you see this gobbler? And he couldn't see it from the angle, but there was a hen coming from straight away, and he's like, it's a hen. I'm like, no, it's a gobbler right next to us. But I'm doing all this and filming, and this bird's over here, and end up with 3 jakes, and this bird's just strutting. He ends up going after the jakes, and never seen. And I've had him bust me back years ago, turkey hunting with a gun, sitting against a tree, and he just move a little bit, and they're 50 yards, and they're like, that ain't right. See ya. And I'm sitting there turning my head and moving, but I have a full heck suit with the gloves and the face mask and everything. The only thing I don't have is socks, but I'm not moving my feet. But so
you're a believer, huh?
I have to say I believe in it.
Okay, all right. I mean, I feel like that's kind of, you got to try it to believe it sort of thing. Not a see it to believe it, but a try it to believe it sort of thing. You got to have your own experience with it to really tell. But
and yeah, I mean, not to get off the arrow subject, but that's who Mike Slinkard had done a lot of research, and it's like, and I think he uses I can't remember the program for getting the sight tapes and stuff, but he does like he puts
Sight
in a
IQ?
I'm not sure if it's that one or not, but he puts it in as a 4-fletch, and his sight tape still is basically the same. So he's not getting that much drop at like 100 yards.
Interesting.
And I shoot that same arrow with all my other 4-fletch, and I'm not good enough at 100 yards to say it's dropping one way or the other. But yeah, so
100 yards is
last
a far
year,
shot, man.
yeah,
That's a poke.
I have, like, on my side lot here, I have a hill that goes up, and my bag is up at the top of the hill. Like, for our total archery challenge, it was 111 yards for the truck shoot. And so I set it up to where I could stand at the edge of my driveway, right on the blacktop, and my bag's 109 yards. And so I shoot that quite a bit, but it's good practice for, you shoot that all day, and the closest shot I usually take is I walk outside and stand by my bush right at the front of my garage, and it's 67 yards. That's where my pin always stays.
Oh, man.
So,
well, that's not a bad thing. Those easy shots become just chip shots when you're shooting like that all the time.
Exactly. And
it's giant.
So the doe, I shot a doe last season and ended up being a 47-yard shot, which is a long shot. And I don't recommend people taking that shot if you're not comfortable, but there was no doubt in my mind, like, this is, it's going to be an easy shot. I mean, you're talking about a live animal, and it's, the ethical part of it.
Yeah, well, I don't feel like that's super out of bounds. I mean, I shot a buck at 43 yards one time and just absolutely annihilated him 10 ring. But, if you practice that shot consistently, like you're saying, you come out of your house and you shoot 67 yards, like, that's your shot all the time. And if you're really laying them in like that, I don't have a problem with you shooting 40 yards at all. I mean, that's
right, and that's
your comfort zone plus some.
Right. So, yeah, I shoot, especially with the Total Archery Challenge, we go up and do those courses, and some of the one course, like 60 yards is the shortest shot.
Yeah.
And you go all the way up to 127 is one of the longest.
That's insane. It's got to be fun, though. It's got to be a lot of fun.
It's a blast.
Yeah,
we thought about doing it this year.
Yeah, ours got rescheduled, and it falls right into where everybody's leaving for elk. So we gotta, and we have a lot of fun with it. We have like the perfect condo that we stay in, and just everything comes together just great. We did a big cookout for the podcast last year with the Huntavore podcast, and the Habitat podcast guys were up there, and we talked to a few other podcasts while we were up there, and it becomes kind of like an ATA environment where there's guys that you see once a year, where you get to hang out and kind of do your thing, and it's really disappointing not being able to go this year, but it's kind of one of those things. We talk to people and they say, does when we were talking to the guys from Tacticam, they're like, well, do you guys, with the podcast and everything, do you guys still get time to hunt? It's like, the podcast doesn't get in the way of our hunting. That's not, that's not, it's not the way that it works.
Yeah.
So, it's unfortunate, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. We had, I think ours was scheduled for, what was the date this year, Charles? Was it July or was it August? Or am I far off on that?
I thought it was before.
No, it was early.
Seven Springs.
Yeah.
Was it early? Was it June?
It was supposed to be. No, it was supposed to be like the end of May. Last weekend of May, maybe.
May. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I might have been way off on that, but I remember looking back in, I think February, and everything was solidly booked. I mean, there were no times to shoot, so that kind of
we looked
my plans for doing it.
It might have been farther back than that. It might have been January or so. We were looking at it, and it was just like everything was taken. All the time slots, everything was gone. We were way behind schedule on that one.
Yeah, so next year we got to be in October.
No, they did. They released like the early bird dates or whatever was while we were at ATA. So we actually booked everything at ATA, and it crashed their server, and so when we did finally get to sign up, like, we were all over the board too as far as our knock times and everything.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
maybe next year for us.
Yeah, so we've been doing it. This would have been our fourth year,
mm-hmm.
And
so
nice.
We get early bird options since we've already been there, and so we'd get like 9 a.m. Try to get a 9 a.m. start every day. That way you could get 2 courses in.
Yeah.
And then you're hung over and you're laying in the bushes waiting for your knock time.
Yeah.
So how many arrows are you guys taking if you're shooting 2 full courses? You guys shooting like losing 16 arrows a day, or what are you guys doing?
I lost one arrow last year.
I went through like 10.
That's what. Yeah.
But
that's more what I was thinking.
Yeah, last year I just had the worst. I developed target panic, welts on the course, and then the shots are so tight. It's not like losing arrows. Like, you might lose an arrow if you're not John on the 125-yard shot, or a lot of times you'll forget to move your sight tape from one to the other. And then all of a sudden you just send it into fucking oblivion. But
I've done that.
they set them up like so tight that what was happening with me is, I forget what is the Archer's paradox, the moving of the arrow, right? So when I was hitting the target, I'd hit, at Total Archery Challenge basically foam's your friend, but you could shoot a 10 ring, an 8 or whatever, and the arrow would slap up against a tree, and it would bust the shaft of my arrows. It was breaking the nocks when I...
Oh, man.
And, I mean, how many times did that happen, John? I broke a lot of arrows.
Yeah.
I mean...
Because, like you say, they set up the targets, you might see part of the kill zone at 60, 70 yards. It's basically like, I'm just going to send it. I'm going to aim right for the tree and know I'm not going to hit the tree.
And the trees around it just literally looks like a porcupine.
Oh, God, yes.
There was a couple that, like, you look up, the one was like this buck up a hill about 100 yards, and it's like there's a brush pile? What the hell? There's a whole brush pile in front of this deer. Like, you had to shoot through a brush pile. Like,
at 109 yards. It was 109 yards with a brush pile in front of the deer.
So you just got to drop them in there, man. Lob them.
Yep.
Dropping bombs, man.
You're lofting them right over it.
Oh,
I can see where the addiction gets for those and the World of Fun comes from. That does sound like a blast.
Yeah, there's some of the shots, man, like where you walk into the spot and you stand by the cone or the stake, and you're like, everyone's looking around like, where the hell's the target? Like,
and the guys in front of you are looking back and they're going, "It's in the woods!" Like,
yeah, no shit. Look for the pink ribbon.
But
like, I mean, what? Oh, like there it is. Like,
but there's
one spot.
There's a few shots that just kind of like stick in my mind as like epic, like iconic shots. Like the first year that we were going elk hunting, like there's a perfect 55-yard downhill shot at this elk, like simulated in this wallow. The one shot on the one course, it's the first shot. You shoot over this pond at a carp or an alligator or a hippo or some shit, and it's like 80 yards over a pond, and it's in the water. So you're you're either in the bank, in the water, or you get the animal. But the one is, it's usually about like an 85-yard shot, and it's like the last couple of years it's been either a bear or a sheep. But John, that one that's on that the downhill, and you got to shoot between those two big trees, and there's that stump behind it.
Oh yeah,
and it's usually that go. I mean, it's so cool because you have to shoot between these like goalposts of these two big like oak trees, and it's like probably 12, 15 feet apart. But at that distance, it looks like there's no way you're going to be able to make it through there, and then into the animal, into the target. It's just so cool, like the way that they set up some of that stuff.
And it's about 30 feet up in the tree because the way the lay of the land, like you're on the side of a hill, and then, it goes way down, and then the bear is up on the other side of the hill, and so you're shooting through the crotch of that tree. Right up.
Oh man, that's unreal, man. We've considered it so many times. I try and keep up with everybody on social media when they're there, watching everything, and seeing some of the course shots and stuff like that. And it's always kind of blown my mind. I've always wanted to do it. Every year it just kind of slips my mind. I don't get the registration right, or I totally forget it, or I schedule something else.
Well, if you're going to do it, or if you're time for it, but even if I'm on the fence with something like that, I would say, like, if you don't get in like right away, like Saturdays, you're screwed. I mean, everybody wants to go on Saturday. Friday night isn't very busy, but Sunday the place is dead. So you could buy just Sunday if you just wanted to shoot.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter after the first set of knock times. So after like noon, or like when they run out of knock times, you can do whatever you want to. And Total Archery Challenge is probably like, shut up, don't say that. But like, it does not matter. Like there is no policing. It's kind of like I don't know.
As long as you have a band on your bow.
But I've even thought about this for this year, John. Like for you and I, like, so this is just totally awful, and I would never do this. I'm a bad person. But you could go up there and hang out and shoot the practice course without a band.
Oh yeah.
And you could do whatever you wanted to. You could get the feel for the entire thing, and just hang out and shoot the practice course. And I can tell you, at least at Boyne, they need to do a better job of checking bands on the Sitka bus. I can tell you that. On the chairlifts, they do a pretty good job, but the bus they don't do a very good job at that. So you can shoot the Sitka course for free, I think.
Well, I was just looking it up. The Seven Springs has moved to August 20th through the 23rd now.
That might be why August was in my mind then.
And so, like with us, they might have some cancellations now and have some open slots, if that's something that you guys can still do.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that after this, see what's going on with it.
It's a lot of fun.
I might be able to make something like that happen. We'll see.
Just to, challenge each other and see who can make it through that little hole and, make the shot. We keep score, but it's not like, I don't even think I added mine up last year.
It's like foam. I mean, foam is your friend.
Yeah,
I mean, just being able to hit the creature at 100 yards, you're like, fuck yeah. I mean, I know that there was one time I pinwheeled complete 12 ring at 85 yards, and it was like throw your bow up. I'm done. Never again. Like,
and then there was ones where like, you know, oh man, you're laying up. What the hell? Yeah, I'm getting foam right now. Shoot him in the butt. But you know, is out in the open, but his vitals are covered with like a whole shrub. It's like, I'm going for the vitals, man. Screw it.
$12.
Yeah.
Gone.
I lost one arrow and I broke two.
That's not so bad, honestly. I feel like I've heard a lot worse than that.
Oh, but I bring 18 or 20 arrows just in case.
Yeah.
Oh, I was out of arrows last year. I was like down to. I found an arrow that matched my setup. It didn't have the same insert, but I was like, this one's going in the quiver.
I like it, man.
We got to keep on talking. Keep the technical talk going. What sight are you guys using then? If you're making 125-yard shots, you got to have a pretty decent sight.
So I shoot the Excel, the AV. I don't even know the name of it. I have two different ones. I have I have a 5-pin slider that I use on my hunting bow. But when I go up to the Toll Archer Challenge, I usually just put my single pin on. The year before last, I didn't. I had because we were going out elk hunting, and so that was my elk setup from 20 to 60, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then my 60-yard pin is my floater.
Yeah.
So that way, going out, I'm all set. I'm not moving pins, and leaving, an option of error. Where how many times have you heard like, oh, I forgot to move my pin? That just happened to Joe from the hunting beast on a buck down in Ohio. The night before, he had a buck come through at 40 yards. He set his pin at 40 yards. Well, it didn't work out. The next morning, he went out. He forgot to move his pin, and he ended up shooting a monster in the horns because
I remember that. I saw that video.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing I tell people, like, unless you're Cameron Haynes, use multiple pins and get a slider sight like that. So, okay, so I shoot my elk at 40 yards, and he runs out to 80. Well, now it's just like with the turkey. I'm going to try to get another arrow on him, and I'm going to range him, set my slider to 80, and use my bottom pin as the rover, but I'm not going to shoot it at the elk. My first shot, like, oh, there's this elk out there at 80 yards. I'm going to fling an arrow at him. I wouldn't do that. But I have the option to try to get a second, arrow in him at a longer distance.
No, I'm with you, man. Just try and get a bleeder going.
Yeah. So for like up there, I have the carbon rod, and then I have the AV41 scope from Excel.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah,
I shoot the HHA Kingpin Optimizer Light, and I really like that. But as evidenced by the my turkey thing this year, I mean, literally, if I'd had a 5-pin sight or whatever, I could have made a little bit of a better adjustment there. So that's really got me thinking. And then, I mean, so when we went out elk hunting, I did the same thing. As I put on a 5-pin sight that was all set, and had that bottom slider, and that was actually a dead ringer. It was like one of their cheaper. It was like probably like the cheapest slider, 5-pin slider sight that's available. I think it was like under $100. And I was really actually surprised. I thought it was going to be a polymer sight. It was actually all aluminum, and
that was nice.
I mean, I was fairly impressed with it, but the catch-22 of that is like, I'm really cheap. So I wanted to see what the quality of that was going to be. And what was funny is that I bought that sight, or I had questions about that sight. I asked the guys at ATA as far as like the setup or the tapes or anything like that. They had no idea. They didn't have the answers. So setting up that sight was a little bit more difficult. But the sights are so freaking expensive. And with those 5-pin sliders, 3-pin sliders, whatever, I feel like, just like we talked about at the Total Archery Challenge, you adjust that sight from the day before or whatever, and now you're using that bottom pin as your, as your floater. Well, you adjust that down to 60, 80, 40, whatever. Well, that turns your 20-yard pin into your 40-yard pin or whatever. And if you forget, neglect, to move that back, and especially in the elk hunting situation, if you were to do something like that, then how long is it between elk encounters or when you're moving around now? So they all have their own merit, but that's something that I've got to look at right now. Going back out west and chasing after elk again is I've given that site away, so I got to make some. And there is one, whatever that site that Ernie has. It's like the option 7 or option 5 or option 3 or whatever. Super expensive sites, but it folds in and it's got all the pins, and then you fold it out, and that bottom one is a single pin floater. So it's a pretty novel idea. It's a pretty cool site.
The only thing I don't like about that is it's not a round housing.
Right, it's a oblong housing. Yep.
Mm.
I was just
don't
looking
know
up.
if I dig that or not.
Mine's actually called the AccuTouch Carbon Pro, so that's the Excel site that I use.
And so for me, being A, not a good bow hunter, not a B, not a archer, technical, all that stuff. Everything that John does and why that would be important is for indexing your peep site. You're that's another consistency. That's another anchor point, another thing that you can make for consistency for a good shot. And so that doesn't enter my mind automatically where John pipes right up and says he doesn't give himself enough credit. He says I'm just the guy, it's Adam's podcast and all this stuff. I say I can't do this without John. When he gets into bows and arrows and sights and all this stuff, lest we forget, that's why I was over there. I'm asking him these questions of saying what about this? What about that? What about this? Because I see stuff and I'm like, oh, that's pretty. That's shiny. That's new. That's cool. And John's back to 50 years ago, whenever they used to have this and they changed it to this because of this reason or this or this or this. And I mean, the guy's making his own bowstrings. He's made my bowstrings, from scratch, just out of scrap metal in his garage and some YouTube videos and shit. So, I mean, when John says this is why this isn't a good idea, you got to kind of take note.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I know our bow site setups aren't nearly as crazy as that. I think, Chuck, what are you rocking? A Trophy Ridge, I think.
Trophy Ridge.
Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about going.
I'm rocking an HHA Optimizer Lite. It's not even really that technical either.
Yeah, I had one of those for a long time.
Yeah,
I love it. I mean, it's awesome, but
I went from I started off with a fixed single pin sight, and then upgraded to a 3-pin sight. 5 was too many pins for me, so I went back to a 3-pin. But I'm thinking this year I want to try to look into maybe a 3-pin with the bottom one as your floater. So
yeah,
I'm gonna start doing some shopping around and looking real soon here. As soon as I can get my mind off turkeys. It's hard.
Real quick here, how old are you guys?
I'll be 30 in a month.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And how old are you, Austin?
I'll be 30 in August.
Yeah. So that's why, we were talking about John being in your hometown years ago for a fireworks convention. That was what, 1990, John?
Yeah, that was the year I was born. I wasn't going to say that, but
that's kind of what I was getting at. So
you were there for my birthday.
Yeah, I'm 45, so.
Yeah, so when you're talking about starting off with a 1-pin sight or this, I mean the bows that I got, the first bow that I got from a garage sale or hand-me-down or whatever, I had an option between a Bear Alaskan and this PSE Sprint or something. So it had an actual bowstring, but they had metal cables that were coated. We had single housing with a pin that you moved with a little, knurled thing, and John's setup was the same, or right in that same era. He's a little bit older than I am, but my father-in-law, like I alluded to before, Frank, he used to work at the bow shop, and he was there for the transition from traditional archery to the first the first compound bows and everything. So, my dad, up until very, very recently, still used that exact same sight, that exact same. You remember the tritium pin? Yep. And that's what he used. Or, we had a 9-volt battery zip tied to our sight, and you'd like click it on when it got to to be dusk or whatever. There was a lot of different options as far as setting that up, and it was always the Cobra 2 thing where you had to sit it on there, and then you had something hot glued to your bow that held it on there like the trad guys have, So,
yeah.
When you say we're not that advanced, it's pretty advanced, from the shit I was slinging.
I shouldn't say that. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
And
we that era. I'll be honest. When I first started, same thing. Hand me down. My dad and my older brother, they got into it completely on their own. No one to show them the ropes. They went from like you said, traditional bows to the first compounds, and it was like night and day difference. But I still remember the metal prongs and that sound when you draw your bow back on those metal prongs. The whole way back, and Whisker biscuits, and those came around, and they were the coolest thing ever. And then, I remember the slap of your peep sight from the old tube slap. We've come a long way in technology from, how I've been doing this since I was 14, so 16 years now as well. So there's a lot that we've come from where we were. That's for sure. You're absolutely right there, Adam.
Yeah, and so for you guys, we you got John talking, and that's great, but for you guys, you talked about being the most technical hunters that and you guys are dialing it up with all the antlers in the background and all that. For all we know, they're dead heads, right? So let's you don't get to talk about tactics on your show, but being in PA, you've got what the highest hunter population, or second to Michigan or whatever. You guys are right up there as far as that. What do you think are the biggest things that have helped you to become, these, to find these deadheads, in the state with all these great PA hunters, with so many of them? How do you, what do you think has helped you with that?
Well, usually if you look around water, that's where you find some of them. In the off season, but no, honestly, I'll say it a million times. The biggest thing for me was actually probably podcasts. To be honest, to adapt from when I first started hunting, learning from my father, who is arguably probably one of the best deer killers that I know. That man never goes a season without killing multiple deer. He knows how to read sign, get on fresh sign, adapt to pressure, which you always have to do. Some of our state game lands, you might be setting up 100 yards from another guy, or within 100 yards from another guy sometimes, and it could just be that little bit of difference. But I found I killed a lot of deer, but I was never, ding on the mature bucks or seeing that many. Although I've always had opportunity. I'll be honest with you, if I had the bow I had today, and I can blame it on the bow I want, but it was mostly me. If I shot straighter growing up, you wouldn't be looking at this little dinky thing behind me I shot with my gun, the first buck I ever killed. You'd be looking at one hell of an impressive wall. And I guess you can always attribute that to, one, spending a lot of time out in the field, but learning to read fresh sign, get on fresh sign. And my biggest thing is going mobile. We were always mobile hunting with climbers. There's a lot of good trees out in Pennsylvania where a guy with a climbing stand on his back can really do a lot of damage. And I know that's like so archaic and rock age now. And to be honest, I haven't picked mine up in 3 years ever since I started going with a mobile setup. And I attribute a lot of that to Autin kind of starting me in that game with the first hang-on stands and mobile sticks. And then, just listening to podcasts. The Hunting Beast podcast is a great podcast you can listen to for tactics. There's some Bow Hunter Chronicles podcast I heard once or twice. And they have really good guests. If you listen to the guests, you learn a thing or two. But you can learn a lot, man. And honestly, you can. And I think with the technical side, just with Autin and I, we've gotten more in depth on thermals and wind and just so much more than I would ever in a million years do. Back when I first started, it was go to an area that you've had luck with in the past, see something maybe off the distance, and the next day you adapt and you kill deer, in that spot. You're always moving around, moving towards the newer, fresher sign, being out in the woods to be able to experience it and see it. So, I guess from our standpoint and my standpoint, I've gotten way more in depth on setups, and it's helped me get on so many deer. I had 7 shot opportunities this year in the first 10 days of the season. So, they were doe, but again, that was all public land, Allegheny National Forest, big woods. When you can get it done on public land in Pennsylvania, I think that's something to be said, and I think it's the same as if you were to get it done on public land in a lot of places, especially Michigan and Pennsylvania and where we're at up here in the north. That's pretty long-winded, but
hey, no, that's fine. And I want to go backtrack on a little bit of that, but I want to hear from Captain Deadhead himself, Autin over here. What do you think has helped you? What are some of the tactics or the things? Because like I say, for our listeners and things like that, like they gravitate to us because I suck and it makes them feel better as hunters. So, how have you, been able to, with all the pressure, everything that goes on in Pennsylvania, and we've heard a lot of good things about the antler point restrictions and things like that, but it still takes, getting around those other hunters and working around it, or is it just you got deep pockets and, you got a game farm that you frequent?
The game farm thing, yeah, high fence only for me. No, I'm kind of on the same train as Charles. I might have got in the podcast game a little bit earlier than him, kind of learning, and that's not to say that I didn't really have great mentors growing up, like my grandfather, my uncles, teaching me the fundamentals of hunting was, excellent from them, but really getting technical and like Charles said, the hunting beast, like hunting the beast style tactics and being mobile that kind of really took me up into the next tier of things. And, the whole pressure thing with Pennsylvania, and we kind of downplay it sometimes, but it really is real. You guys, you're up in Michigan. Hunting pressure is astronomical. Like, if you brought guys from Iowa out here, they'd have a hell of a time just even getting on deer in general, But my biggest thing was really learning to look for those areas that are just overlooked. And I don't care if you're hunting the Allegheny National Forest, like Charles said, where it's 80,000 acres and you just find that one pocket that guys aren't touching, or you're finding like a local little 10-acre piece that just holds deer and no one really thinks about it. It might be surrounded by an HOA and you have to get permission from everybody. But that kind of style is kind of how I feel like we can get it done a little bit more than most of the so-called jabroni hunters in Pennsylvania,
And so when you're talking about your mobile setups, what are you guys running for? What makes you mobile? What are your setups?
So I was kind of like Charles before. I was running a really old climber for a long time, and then I switched over to an XOP Vanish and Lone Wolf Sticks, and I ran that for 2 or 3 years. And then last year, I stayed with the XOP for like my first 2 or 3 hunts, and I actually turned into a saddle hunter last year. I didn't know if I mentioned that or not, but I'm a saddle hunter now. Saddle hunting is the best saddle. But that was really a game changer for me too. Even my sticks and stand setup was pretty light, but switching to a saddle, I mean, man, it's like non-existent. But that's kind of how I think Charles kind of got into it a little bit last year too, the saddle hunting, getting a little bit more light, getting a little bit more agile.
Well, so you did say saddle hunter, game changer, and you did say lightweight. So you are definitely a podcast host, and that's the only thing. I mean, we talked a little bit about CrossFit and your how you switched over from veganism right before the podcast, and I didn't hit record, so I missed that. And Charles, what's your setup?
So I am currently trying to sell my trophy line ambush that I have right now, because I went from same thing API climber stand to the XOP Vanish with the Lone Wolf Sticks, and then I ran last year the Lone Wolf Sticks with either Austin's homemade platform with my trophy
Tina
line.
1.0.
Yeah, or I did run a couple times. I ran the steps, the 3 wild edge steps around the tree, which I didn't mind, but I do like the platform. So my thoughts for next year are I'm probably going to pick up a Ridge Runner. I'm really liking what the Ridge Runner looks like and what it offers as far as from a tree stand guy that I've always hunted tree stands. I kind of like that I can stand up on it, pull my backpack up, and do whatever I need to do. I think it adds comfort as well. I bought wild edge, a full set of wild edge steps. Probably going to get rid of the Lone Wolf Sticks and might upgrade to the Out on the Limb Shakars. Really loving what they're doing over there at Out on the Limb. And Matt Garris is a great guy, so I think that's going to be my setup for next year. But still looking in, I'm in the saddle market, man. I don't know. You guys talk about the Phantom. I've heard a lot about the Phantom. I was cheap too, so I'm trying to pick up whatever I can on the cheap side. Might look to see if I can't pull Manus off somebody that's trying to get rid of it. That upgraded to the Phantom, but and I think we even answered your question, Adam. To be honest, like what technical, the initial question of what our real strategy is.
You a little bit. I mean. You said going mobile, and I wanted to circle back because I want to talk about the sign, reading fresh sign. I think that's one thing that's consistent with everyone that we've talked to. But we talked to Dan and Fault about it, and he said, well, yeah, you got to hunt hot sign. Hot sign's hot. Like, well, how the fuck do you know if it's hot or like what the that seems like it's just a bunch of like double talk, So I want to get into that a little bit, but real quick, just because you were talking about the Out on the Limb stuff, trophy line, etc. And earlier you had mentioned that you had some questions about the Phantom. I think that John's going to be your guy as far as if you got any questions about the Phantom is concerned. But have you messed around with the Ridge Runner? And I just want to say, like, we talked to Matt Garris on the podcast, and we talked to him in person. I've talked to him a lot. He's made me a couple of different camera arm bases, like specifically to use his base with the 4th arrow arm, and it'll fit John's muddy arm as well. So I don't have anything bad to say about him or whatever. But I had a Ridge Runner. Personally for me, I didn't care for the way that it hooked up to the tree and the way that it had to cam over like twice. I used it on a lot of pine trees, and it didn't really, for me personally, that's where I had an issue with it. And so it didn't have anything to do with the way that it functioned, other than the bark got into the leveling mechanism, and it was kind of like a pain in the dick. So I just abandoned that. And it's not like I'm saying, oh, well, this platform is better or that platform is better, but that personally for me was why I chose something different, because I had one of the first Ridge Runners that came out, because it was one of the things where, everybody's talking about this platform, everybody's talking about this platform, everybody wants to build their own goddamn platform. And I'm like, this is a new one, nobody has it, so I'll do the pre-order, I'll have one of the first ones that comes out. And it just wasn't for me. I know a lot of guys like him, and I know that he's used that method of mounting his tree stands to the trees for a long time, but just for me, it just didn't work out. And then with assuming that I get it back, because one of my Patreons has a mantis, I got a mantis I'll send you, and you can mess around with it if you want to use it this year. You can use it; it's fine. We've got John and I have phantoms. I hunted out of a mantis and a trophy line all last year, and for me, I hunted the first half of the year out of the mantis, the second half of the year out of the trophy line, and I had to hunt the end of the year out of the mantis because people were asking me, like, what's the difference, and I didn't really have a good answer. I mean, both of them have their strong points and their weaknesses. I don't like the bridge on the trophy line that much, but I like for sitting, it's awesome because it's so big, and it's, if you're going to sit in it, if you're going to lean in it, it feels like it's pinching your guts out. Like it feels like it's pinching your ribs. And everybody talks about hip pinch. Well, with the mantis, if you sit in the mantis, it wants to slide up, and you got to mess with it and dick around with it. The bridge is awesome. The Amsteel bridge slides perfectly. But then if you lean in it, there's no issue. And, there's the microfit adjusters and everything like that. But I feel like if you hunt out of them and you really hunt out of them, you're going to adjust them and understand what you can and can't do out of them. I mean, and I hunted all day sits out of both. I hunted a shit ton out of both. I never sat in a tree stand once last year. And that's not to say that I'm a saddle hunter all of a sudden, but I got a saddle. I got one of the mantises. My mom bought it for me for Christmas. My mom called, tethered, and chewed him out because it wasn't going to reach us by Christmas time. And that's something I've had to answer to Greg and Ernie, both face to face, each time, every time I see them. So, but I felt like I had to do it just so I could have an intelligent conversation about saddle hunting. And once you do it, it is definitely a paradigm shift as far as your thinking on A, how you set up in a tree, and B, the bulk. This is not a weight thing; it's more of a bulk and a convenience thing. So, for me, that's kind of how I landed hunting from a saddle, not because saddle hunting and CrossFit and all the shit that I just want to tell people that I do. Hunt from a kayak and all that podcast hosts are supposed to do. I haven't not ventured into that, but and so we got phantoms this year, and we sat in them a lot. And I think John has a better affinity for the phantom than I do, just because I know exactly what I wanted. I think what they did with the Phantom is they took their hundreds and thousands of hours of sitting in these saddles, because the guys that have created these and the guys that inputted, they said that a lot of time, like you did, Charles and Austin, whatever, to sit and say, man, if I could make my own saddle, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like that. And they created what they consider to be the perfect saddle, which is a terrible thing if you're trying to sell shit, because you can't sell them the next one because you've created the best one, right? But it addresses just about every problem I think that most people have. And John, you spent a lot of time. We both spent a lot of time explaining saddle hunting and saddles at the expo to different people. But I think it really made a difference with John as far as like the ability to be able to change that Phantom saddle.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot has to do with like your body style, the way your body's shaped for one. Adam, I'm 6'3", 235 pounds, but I have a very bad back. I've had 4 back surgeries, and so when Adam first got his saddle, I was like, "What the hell is that diaper ass thing you got on?" I'm like, I got over to his house and he was swinging around on this thing on his pine tree in his yard, and I'm like, "Nah, I'll stick with my stands." Well, last year my back was out. I had terrible issues last year, and finally started hunting like 3 weeks into season, and of course I'm carrying camera gear. I'm using my XOP stands, sticks, and those, like the XOP sticks, are not light. I think they're between the 4 of them, they're almost 16 pounds.
Oh, holy hell!
And that I even have the mini Versus straps on them, and then I'm using the bigger XOP stand, not the biggest.
Air Raid.
Oh, the Air Raid.
Air Raid. And so with my camera gear and all that, even in early season, it was over 50 pounds for my pack.
Oh.
And so I hunted a couple times, and it was just, I told Adam, like, dude, I'm gonna get stuck out here. I ended up hunting on the ground a couple times just because I didn't want to risk throwing my back out. And so he's like, well, here, take my Manus, try it out. So I went out, I just picked it up, went straight out, hunted with it, and I was like, that's it, I gotta have a saddle. I told him, I'm like, dude, but at the time, you couldn't even get a Manus. Everything was on back order, sold out.
My mom couldn't even do anything for him.
So, and just happened that trophy line was, they were coming back out I think that week they were being released. So we ended up got a couple on order, got one on order for sure. And then, it literally came in. I picked it up from Adam's doorstep, unboxed it, did a little video, and went straight to the tree. I was so excited I actually forgot my top steps, so I was standing on just one, because the XOPs just have the one step. But and I hunted out the whole rest of the season, and I killed my first deer out of a saddle, and it was awesome. Like the ball, even though the trophy line, I'm not for the price. It's a good entry level, saddle, and like I said, Adam got comfortable. I had issues trying to. It wanted to ride up on me a lot, and I had a lot of rib pinch because the way that bridge come up, and it'd ride up and just like crush my rib cage, and end up having like a stomach ache because of it. And it's big and bulky. Now when I put
but compared to your Air Raid, it's
yeah.
I mean, it's
I'm comparing it to the Phantom now.
Okay.
So when I put the Phantom on, it was just like, man, all the hype here. I'm thinking, can it really be that good? And it was. It is. It's got the comfort slots, adjustments, and you can, just by moving that bridge and those notches, makes a huge difference. You can change like the pressure point from being more like sitting on the bottom of your, like the back of your thighs, or you can swap it and it'll be more in your lower back. And I like it right in the middle. And they said, I haven't obviously got the hunt out of it yet, but I spent a lot of time doing demos in it. And matter of fact, I would just, like, even when we were at the expo and there was no one around, I would just go hook up to the tree and just sit because it was so comfortable.
Well, that's a testament right there.
Yeah, and that, like with the bridge, the way it's adjusted, just everything about it. It's slim. You don't even know it's there.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to what you're talking about with the bulkiness of the trophy line compared to, a good buddy of ours that actually we got into saddle hunting as the guinea pig before we went into it. He went with man, and I got to sit in it, and man, it's like there's nothing to it. And then you get that trophy line, and you have those big rigid edges, and the big wide bridge. It's just, it's not bad by any means. Now, mind you, I did do 3 all-day hunts in a row out of it perfectly fine. Now, that third day, my butt was a little sore, just above your waistband was pretty sore. I had to kind of lean up against another tree, but again, I didn't know. There's a lot I could be doing wrong. I hunted at a stand all year last year, and then days before my Ohio trip out of state, I got the trophy line in the mail, and I hunted out of Austin's saddle that he actually made a couple times, but other than that, I just wung it. Went out, winged it. I loved it, but who knows? My tether height could have been off. There's a lot of things I could have been doing wrong.
And that's where I'm no, like I said, I got Adams, and from my experience, what happens with the Phantom is it takes the learning curve out of it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the funny part about the whole thing, and this is, I always defer to John. John is the brains. John's this, whatever, and he says, nah, blah blah blah. Well, if you go back to our breakdown of our season and our gear, we talk about the Mantis and the trophy line. We have both of them in front of us. John says specifically, if you were to take the trophy line and do this, and if you were to take the Mantis and do this, this would be the perfect saddle. And lo and behold, we show up at ATA, and he's like, this is what I just fucking said. Like I said, specifically all of these things. Now, the comfort channel and the bridge, like whatever, but the shape of it and the angles and everything is exactly the way that he broke it down as to what he would do differently, So he says, well, yeah, this is Adam's podcast. And I go, oh, boy, I say, he's the brains behind the whole thing,
Well, it's just looking at it from the point of view, like how would this thing be more comfortable? Like if I could sew it up, it should be shaped like a football and cupped, and then that's exactly what the Phantom is. It looks like a cover of a football, but
yeah.
And then to go back to the platform, what was that one that you had, Adam?
The Ridge Runner.
Now, this is coming from Adam, who he wouldn't use the Wild Edge steps because he didn't trust or like doing the knot.
No, I didn't put the time into it. So
right.
my thing is that I know myself, and I know what it's going to take, and I fucked around with those steps, and I can't there's people that say well, yeah, I've tried everything. I got the Primal steps, I got the Wild Edge steps, I got Lone Wolf sticks, I got XOP sticks, I got a Shakar, I got B sticks, I got cut down APIs, I got Muddy Pros. The only ones I haven't messed with is the Hawk sticks, but basically every single possible popular climbing apparatus I've tried, and in messing with those, and I messed with them on these pine trees, and I did the knots, and I messed around with them, and I just couldn't get them to where I knew that I was going to be able to consistently do that up and down the tree in the dark every day, or I wasn't committed enough because the sticks, I didn't have a problem enough with the sticks to do it, and I got some to try it, and so I said, here, John, you do it,
Right. So I wasn't trying to knock Adam. I was just trying to give you some
paint a picture, yeah.
Yeah, paint a picture on that way. It didn't sound like he was just making that.
Well,
So,
and to your point, though, too, Adam, you mentioned pine trees a lot, and I have firsthand experience with the steps and pine trees, and they do not go together. That is not something that I was even comfortable with. The first time we busted out the wild edge steps and we threw them up on a small pine tree, and they slipped and slid all over and tore it all up, and and then you put them on a nice size oak or a nice maple or something, and they bite pretty good. I always felt like the harder the tree, the better those actually worked compared to a soft tree. You'd step on one side and it would just like completely tilt down, and it would be at a bad angle. And I've dealt with it, so I know where you're coming from, and it's complicated. Our buddy who started this whole thing and kind of put the bug on me, he's been using the wild edge steps, and he's been doing the nader and Schweitzer, and he swears by it, man. He gets way up in the air with like 4 steps and absolutely loves it. He's crazy. He's gone to the climbing with with the what are they called,
the spurs now.
Spurs now. Yeah, he uses spurs.
Well, the tree hoppers too, or something.
Yeah, he's crazy, man. But it's fun. It's fun to play and tinker. It's a beautiful thing in the world we live in now that we have all these options and we have everything that we want to choose from. It's just finding what you're comfortable with and finding what works best for you.
Well, and I personally, though, I think like, so for you guys or for myself or John or whatever, and I put John in these positions all the time, or just like, I don't know who these guys are. I don't know who we're talking to. I don't know what we're doing, but like, to sit on here or have somebody ask you a question and you try to answer a question that you have like somewhat limited knowledge on, it's like I feel like I got to try everything, and then I can like formulate an opinion, and that's what I try to do, because there's so many fucking internet commandos out there that are like, whoa, and I don't really care about that one way or the other, but that's one thing that I have a hard time with. Like, I absolutely love the tethered guys, and I love everything about like how they created their company and everything, but when you go online, all the tethered guys seem to gravitate and chime in, and it seems like they're bullying people, and then people fucking automatically have a bad taste in their mouth about tethered, where it's like completely the opposite. Like, if you were to step back before saddle hunting, before tethered existed, these are the guys that were answering all the questions and everything like that. And so now you've got guys that are just pissed off at guys that actually know what they're talking about, and then they just speak on things that they have no business talking about or they have no opinion on. And it's like, from our perspective, as like, we're just regular guys, but we talk to all these people. So I see a lot of people that have podcasts, and they talk to people, they talk to companies, they talk to on different subjects where they never have had, and we've turned down a lot of podcasts, but we've never had the product in our hand to say, this is what I think about it, or what what my real opinion is. And that's one of the hard things. Like I said, I personally put John in this position all the time, because I'm, like he said before, like, I'm always on social media. I'm always talking. I'm always, I'm kind of have my pulse on like where everybody's bitches are. So that way I can drive our podcast to things that are talking points, and we can talk to people that are polarizing, or we can talk about things that are kind of crazy. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like we have to actually try them before we start talking shit,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, that's the whole problem.
There's a reason why.
Good, Austin.
Yeah, to your point, there's a reason why you don't really hear me chiming in, talking about the trophy line, talking about the tethered mantis, whether it be the Phantom or the Mantis. I didn't hunt from either one of them this year. I hunted from a saddle that I made myself. And I have complaints, it's only I can only complain to myself. I mean, I can speak to XFE stands. I can speak to, lone wolf climbers. I've used those a couple times, and I can speak to my sticks, but when it comes to a lot of things, I can only really speak to general saddle questions when it comes to that. And, I don't even really have a whole lot of experience to that because, truth be told, I only hunted out of my saddle like 3 times this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be nervous with that maker as well, but sometimes you got to try it before you you can speak on it, So.
Oh, definitely.
but like I say, for me, like we have between John and I, we've got 6 saddles, I think, and
oh man,
I've been sending them all over the country, like through our Patreon network. Like, guys want something, and I'm like, I'll just send it to you. And guys are like, you're kidding me, right? Like, they've decided to support us, so I'm like, well, I would assume that you'll send it back. If, like I said, if I don't get the mantis back, then Charles, you can't use it. I can give you an address where you can go pick it up if you want, but like the thing is that the thing about tree stands and saddles and where I feel like there's a big difference is like a saddle is like a piece of clothing, right? So I can have a bunch of kick-ass boots or like some real cool like Sitka or First Light or like whatever, but I can't wear 5 jackets and I can't wear 3 sets of boots. So if I'm not using my saddle, then I can let somebody else use it. Where if I had a bunch of tree stands or whatever, I could set them in different places and like whatever. But that's the beauty of saddles. So, like, one thing when we were at the expo, like, first of all, I feel like we live in an echo chamber in a bubble with the podcast community. And if you're listening to this podcast, whether you're a Whitetail Distraction podcast listener or you're one of our regular listeners, you probably heard me say this before, but like, I feel like everybody knows what a saddle is, and everybody knows what mobile hunting is, and everybody knows about sticks, and everybody knows about this. John, how many people walked by the tethered booth and said, "Oh, so that's for setting a tree stand, or that's how you climb the tree, or what?" I mean,
what is that thing?
And this was on, like, we got there, I think, on Saturday, or Friday night. The Phantoms went on sale on Wednesday and sold out on Wednesday. So people coming by are like, "Oh, that looks pretty cool," and I'd be like, "Well, why don't you get in it and sit in one?" "No, I don't really know." I'm like, "Look, these went on sale on Wednesday. They're completely sold out. The only ones that exist in the country are here or in North Carolina. So if you have any interest in ever sitting in one, you might want to try it just to see if it's for you, because it's something that's not, you can't go to, for us it's Menards, and you can buy a $30 hang-on stand, you can buy a $80 climber, or you can go to Dunham's, or
we can't go to Cabela's.
Yeah, you won't find one of these. So you have to know somebody, or you have to have your pulse on like what's going on to even understand like what's going on. And like John had literally like fucking Andre the Giant come in and want to sit in this. John is a big guy, he said it, and this guy was taller like than the fucking stand.
I was looking up at him. I had to get in the saddle on the other side of the post just so he didn't break the damn thing up. The pole literally bent like when he got on it.
Oh man, that's a big man.
Yeah, it was what's his name got on the pole with me, like was holding
Chad,
and just so he wouldn't break our display model. Like,
and it wasn't the saddle wasn't going to break; it was the telephone pole.
Yeah, the pole was going to rip off the base.
But
well, if anybody has any hesitation about the saddle, it will hold you.
And this guy wasn't. He was like, he looked like a freaking huge football player. He had to have been like a pro football player or something. If not, they wanted him to play. But he put it on, and he had the only reason why he didn't buy one was because it didn't go around his waist. Like it was too tight around his waist, and he had the belt completely, adjusted out as far as it would go. And so Ernie's like, here's the deal. He's like, I'll go back and have one made for you, and here's my information, and I'll get it out to you. And now we're going to start making the belts bigger just for that reason.
That's crazy.
But my point is like, I cannot sit in all these saddles. I'm not a collector of saddles.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to know, like, what one is better. So it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, it's way different than your tree stand. Like, if you're having problems with your tree stand, like, whatever, you want to figure out saddle hunting, don't talk to Internet Commando who's paid by this company or whatever, or is pissed off because these guys chime in every time because they fucking know what they're talking about, but you don't like the fact that they chime in every time. It's like, just get one and try it. And so for us, like, we're in a position that we got a shit ton of saddles laying around, and there's no point in us just looking at them. So it's like, here, try this one, try that one, whatever. Figure out what you like or what you don't like. And if you don't like saddle hunting, I don't care. It doesn't make or break me. But I'm sure you guys have seen the one on the forums or whatever where a guy weaves one out of paracord because he's like, well, this is the coolest thing ever. Well, that might be cool at 3 feet off the ground, but 20 feet up in the air, when you clip into the saddle for the first time and you're hanging by one piece of rope, you're like, oh fuck, like, is this real? Like, is this like what I'm really doing right now? Because you're used to a climbing harness where it's set to, like, if I mess up and I fall, I hope that it's going to help me. But now you're saying, this is all I have. All my faith is in these few things. So I got to commend you, Austin, for having the balls enough and the confidence in yourself to just knit one up and, clip into it, because I could not do that.
I'll tell you what, man. I went overboard. I went so overboard on this thing. I went like 6,000 pound webbing, like 6,000 denier nylon, like everything. Like, it is not the lightest saddle, but it's comfortable. And I tested the hell out of it on ground level, like jumping up and like slamming down, just trying to break this thing. And it wouldn't budge, man. And that's kind of how I got my little, like, bearings, I guess you can say, on it. And I was using an Ernie Special platform, man, out of a freaking XOPC. Like, it's rigged, man. It's not anything crazy and special, but it works. And speaking of, like, lending your saddles out and stuff, I killed my buck this year, and Charles was going on a trip, and he was like, dude, I'm just going to use my XOP. And I was like, dude, I don't need my saddle. Take it. And he hunted out of it. I don't know how many times Charles hunted out of it, and he liked it, and it held him, and he's bigger than me, but I don't think that you can break my saddle. But to my point on that, like you said, you want to kind of progress in the saddle game and try different saddles. And I talked to a lot of people about it, and I get their opinions on it, and I know what I liked about mine this year and what I didn't like about it and where I want to go with it. And I'm making a brand new saddle for this season. It's going to be epic.
Well, like I say, like, for me, it isn't about, like, I want to try, it's just simply, this is what people are talking about. This is what people have questions about. I've never handled or even seen one of the Arrow Hunter saddles or anything like that. They're not at the shows. They're not around the Wild Edge or the Arrow Hunter, the Gearak or whatever. Like, never seen one. The H2, he's a Michigan guy. I haven't messed around with one of those. We've messed around with one of the new ones that's coming out from Latitude Outdoors, and it's extremely comfortable. I mean, it's people are really going to like it, and they're doing their due diligence, but it's just a matter of, if you were trying to be completely unbiased, but you'd only ever sat in one tree stand, and people had questions about the other ones. I mean, you can't ask ask those questions, And I think that's one of the things that is good about John and I. And I've talked about it a bunch, but he's a buy once, cry once guy, and I'll spend $100 50 times before I spend $1,000 once, and it's just my personality. And John's gonna micro analyze every single thing, so we come at it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing as you think about the bow game. You can do the same thing. There's those guys that they're Matthews guys that shoot Matthews because that's the only bow they've ever touched. I take advantage every show we go to, anything we have. If there's a whole line of bows there, I'm going to pick them up and I'm going to shoot every single bow there. And I'm going to see what I like about each bow, and I'm going to see what's comfortable for me. And that's how I do shoot Matthews, but that's because when I went and looked for my new bow from my old Fred Bear that's up on the wall, I mean, that's what I like best. I landed with a Matthews Creed, and then I've been shooting that bow ever since. And this year we went to the show, and the Great American Outdoor Show, and I shot the VXR, and that bow is just absolutely ridiculous. Far above and beyond anything else that I shot. I shot the new Elite. I didn't like it at all. I shot the new Prime. I actually did like the new Prime. That new Prime is nice. It's really nice. But the same thing with the Hoyts even. They still have that same funky valley into the back wall, and I don't know. I really like the VXR. I feel like you could do this all day long with any product in the outdoors. You can say the same thing where guys, people are so strongly opinionated over what they have because everybody wants to believe that what they have is the best thing out there possible. And what I love about myself is that I will never just stick to one thing anymore. I feel like I had my XOP stand. I freaking loved it. I would tell you it's the best thing on the planet. And then something better came to my mind, and now saddles. So I upgraded to a saddle. Now I love a saddle. Well, now I kind of want to upgrade and try another saddle and another climbing method and a different method. And I'm always trying to advance, and you get a lot of harp around it because you think about Pennsylvania hunters, your typical Pennsylvania hunter is the guy that has a ladder stand and maybe a climber stand, and they hunt a lot. A lot of rifle hunters in our area, but not a lot of guys are doing the mobile thing, and not a lot of people even know what saddle is. Some of the best hunters in this area that I know, they don't even know what a saddle is, and it blows my mind. But you could go down that just wormhole all day long. It's a rabbit hole of this or that product, and the guys that argue about it on Facebook or social media. I was saying earlier, that's the disease of social media. It gives everybody an opinion and everybody a voice that maybe they don't deserve a voice or an opinion because their opinion's skewed and it's not accurate as you've been saying, Adam. They've only ever done one thing. They've only ever tried one thing. So how can you have an opinion on the broad? If someone likes this saddle better, but you've only ever sat that saddle, and you're going to knock that guy for sitting a saddle that you've never even sat in and tell him it's junk, it's trash. It just shit blows my mind, man.
Yeah, that's going along those same lines. That's what I've always said, like especially about bows. It's like go to a pro shop or go to if you're going to ATA, if you could have all the bows without the names on it, just go and shoot every bow, and whichever one feels the best to you, pick that one. Who cares what the name is? Because all the bows, like every manufacturer out there now, they all have a good product for the most part. Like all those guys, all PSC, Hoyt, it's all about personal. What feels good to you? Like you were talking about the Matthews. Last year I shot I've been shooting Hoyt. For one thing, with my draw length, 31-inch draw length, it's always been like a handicap for me in finding a bow that fits me. It's been like that for years. And so like the first show we went to, the first ATA we went to a few years ago, Adam shot every bow. And he's like, "Are you going to shoot that?" I'm like, "They don't have one in my, it's no point. It only goes up to 30-inch draw length. So I can't even tweak it to make it fit me. So I'm not going to shoot it." But then, now it seemed like in the last 2 years, they've started to kind of cater to the longer draw length guys again. But I shot that VXR this year, and it was lights out. Awesome shooting bow. Shot the PSE, of course, Dudley and NTN. That bow shot awesome as well. And so it was like the one thing that it's kind of bothered me being the tweaker that I am with bows. I mean, I build my own strings, I do all my own tuning, and I'm always doing stuff, is the draw length specific cam, where if I get a 31-inch cam, or not only that, then when resale value too is, if you're selling a 31-inch bow, it's just to that person, unless and like when I build bows for our friends, and they buy a Matthews, I use Matthews. Well, I get it wrong cam. Frank, they sold him a bow that had the wrong draw length for him, so we had to order $80, $100 cam set, or mods, where like the PSE this year, it goes from like I think 27 to 31-inch, whatever. And there's downfalls to that too. You're losing maybe a little bit of efficiency, with that much draw length adjustability. But for me, it wasn't enough to. I end up picking the PSE, but I can't. No one's working. You can't even get them right now. Matthews or PSE. Yeah. Goes with the saddles too. Just if you can try them out. Like I can never remember people's names, but he does the saddle like class.
Oh, Tim?
Tim, yeah. They do. Well, there were supposed to be several of them.
The teach and train.
The teach and train, yeah.
And so that way, that gives opportunity. And he has several different kinds of. He's got Manus, now he's got Phantom. I think he uses some trophy lines too. We were going to put something together like that at our local Bowman's Club and have him come down. We were going to do, just anyone that wanted to come out, try him out. Which one feels the best to you? Then that's the only downfall of this saddle craze right now is there's not a lot of them out there for people just to try.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, you can't walk into a Cabela's and start swinging around on a saddle, and that was probably my biggest hesitation. But if you think about it, and me personally, I mean, I would never even known what a saddle was if it wasn't for a podcast that I heard with Greg Godfrey years ago. And then another one came out, and it's like, man, that's one of my favorite podcasts. Like, this sounds really good. And I was the bug in Austin's ear there for a while, like telling him, like, dude, I know the XOP is great. He's like, yeah, but I just got it how I like it, and I'm comfortable, and I love it. I'm like, dude, yeah, but like we lose our stands and use this thing we put around our waist and climb trees and be monkeys, and that sounds a lot more fun and efficient. And dude, it's right down our alley. Like, this is what we do. Getting way back in on public land, and we hunt a lot of swamps. I mean, you want to talk about trying to get through a swamp edge with a saddle on, or with a stand on your back. It sucks. There's a lot of ducking underneath, climbing over top of things. A lot of clear cuts in different areas we hunt. The saddle was a huge benefit. Huge benefit.
Oh yeah, I know all about the swamp. I almost left my XOP in the swamp on my last hunt with it, just because it was such a bitch getting out. Like,
yeah.
I had to go 2/3 of a mile. I cut across this nasty marsh. Wrong thing to do. It took me 2 hours to go 2/3 of a mile.
Oh man.
I almost lost my boots. I was up over my knees in mud. It was pouring down rain, and it was I was cursing Dan in fault. Like, I even did a video. I'm like, I don't know how that.
Gotta walk like a duck.
Yeah. Dan was just like, oh, it's a beautiful night. I'm like, I'm out there freaking wanting to shoot myself, literally. But I was like, this tree stand can stay because no one would ever find it because no one in their right mind would ever come this way. Maybe a duck or something.
I'm so with you there, man.
Yeah, Austin's buck this year died in the back of a big time swamp, marshy land, and it took us all night getting that thing out of there, and it was an absolute mess. And if I would have added, like, we didn't have any stands or anything with us, but he did kill it out of the saddle, and I couldn't imagine trying to get in and out of that area with stands on our back. I don't want to say it wasn't possible, but it would be very, very difficult. Very difficult. Especially if
it was unreal how thick it was in there.
Oh, man.
Those
old climbers.
I had a big doe come underneath me that night, and I was like, if it would have been in any other spot, I would have shot it. But I'm like, thinking to myself, if I shoot this deer and have to have someone come out and help me, they'll no longer talk to me. Ever. Like, they wouldn't even have made it to the animal. I guarantee it. Because they're like, you did this with a doe? What the hell's wrong with you, man? So.
Oh, man. I'm with you. I'm lucky I had Chuck this year. It would have been damn near impossible. I'd still be out there trying to get that deer up.
Yeah. Definitely would have had to quarter mine up. There would have been no drag unless we had an airboat, maybe.
Yeah.
We should have done the quartering method. That sounds a lot better right now. We definitely could have done it.
I should have threw the thing in the damn river and just floated down to the bridge with it.
You should have swam. Right. If you were a real man, you would have just jumped in with it, used it as a floating device, and then swam down to the bridge.
Yeah. Well, we've already established I'm 14, so.
So, Austin, what bow are you shooting right now?
Oh, God, I don't even want to tell you. I am shooting a Hoyt Turbo Hawk from, I think it's a 2010. Yeah, it is very exciting. It's very loud. It's kind of accurate, but it kills deer, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the market for a new bow. I think that VXR it's on my radar big time.
Yeah, it's a sweet shooting bow. I mean,
unbelievable.
And Charles, you're still shooting the Matthews. You said, was it
Creed? I have the Creed XS. I have the smaller version, the 28-inch axle. Okay. I shot both when I first looked at them, and I kind of wish now that I would have went with the regular Creed because the back wall on the XS is a little jumpy. It's a little aggressive with that shorter axle. Matthews didn't quite have it figured out back then, quite like they do now with their short axle, like the Triax and now with the VXR. Those 28-inch axles, they don't even compare to the draw cycle that what my bow is, and I love it. The bow shoots great. It's the greatest thing I've ever shot. Coming, like I said, from hand-me-down bows. First real bow I ever had, Fredbear SQ32. It's still right there on the wall. That thing is a tank, probably 8% let off on it. But killed a lot of deer with that bow, man. That was my first real bow that actually fit me to my draw length. I'm not overdrawn. I'm not underdrawing. I love it. Yeah, that's what I'm rocking now. The Creed XS. It's a good bow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I still have some of my old original Matthews. I have old Feather Max and the Q2 XL. I remember when I bought my Feather Max, that was when the Z Max came out back in like 92, 93 or something like that. And
you got to understand these guys were 4 and 3 or whatever the fuck. Like.
My brother still has his Feather Max, and my oldest brother used to shoot it. And then my other, I have three brothers, so it gets confusing. But my oldest brother was shooting the Feather Max, and then my next older brother, he was shooting it for the longest time, and he actually went and found the regular Creed for sale, and he switched to it. But up until a couple years ago, that's what he was hunting with. It was a pretty nice bow back then.
Yeah, well, they had like their speed bow, because see the Feather Max has the deflex riser, and they had the Z Max was the reflex riser, and it was a little faster, but it would only come to 30-inch drawing. And I remember I was at one of our big sporting goods up in Clare, Michigan, Jay Sporting Goods, and they have an awesome bow shop. And I'm up there, and the bow tech guy, he's like doing everything he can. Like, we're in the back room and we're twisting cables up, and you can only do so much with a single cam bow. But he's like, finally, I know you're you're set on this bow, but how about you give the Feather Max a shot? He's like, that one goes all the way to 32-inch drawing. It's the same limbs, cams, everything. It's just a different riser. Like, all right. Mm-hmm. So sure enough, I draw that. I'm like, okay, I'll take this one. But yeah, still got it. Still hanging up in the old shop there, and then Q2 XL. That was my next one because it took so long to find another one to fit, and they shot so good.
If you ask his wife, he sold both those bows twice already.
Let me turn that question around on you. Let's turn the question around on you guys. What are you guys shooting?
So I'm still shooting. Like right now, I have my Hoyt RX1.
Nice.
I shot the RX3 and the RX4, and it was just for the money. Now they're up to like $1,700.
Bear bow. Sickening.
And my RX1 shoots so good. I just haven't seen I have a Hoyt Pro Max also.
Nice.
Or Pro Force or whatever it's called. It's a target bow. But that's what I shot my turkey with, just because it's a 60-pound limbs, and I turned it down to about 56 pounds, and that's how I could get those bullhead arrows to shoot consistent.
Nice. What about you, Adam?
I'm shooting a 2017 Diamond Deploy. So
nice.
Just what John said is like at ATA, like I shot every single bow that was possible. This is 2018, and the Carbon Icon, the Bowtech Carbon Icon, I couldn't find a better bow for the money. Like, there are some bows that maybe edged it out like a little bit, but the price difference was exorbitant. And then I ran into this bow for, like, I bought it for $300, brand new, everything. So, and then when we went out west, I bought a Carbon Knight to go along with it as a backup bow. And I mean, that bow's been great. As far as like carrying that bow, I've carried that bow for probably damn near 1,000 miles now. I mean, like legitimately, I don't know. John will tell you like how far out of spec the strings were when he put the new ones on, and I mean, I definitely have got my money's worth out of that bow. But it's funny is that I may be getting a different bow here. I'm just on the fence about it. But I think I'm going to buy a Gearhead, just because I want to talk about it. Not, again, it's a saddle thing, simply because, but I mean, because people want to know about these things, and it's like polarizing. And like, I talked to Skip at the show here in Grand Rapids, but John wasn't there, so he doesn't. I want to have Skip on the podcast. I want to talk to him about him. But it would do no good if John hasn't got a bow to see. So I had it all lined up so we would get a bow to check out. Like a couple of our friends, through the podcast or whatever, have them or had one coming in. And then all this fucking lockdown started, and then we couldn't get John to have one in his hands to kind of mess around with it. And, like, again, it's perfect for us for, like, trying to do a giveaway to our Patreons or something like that because they're ambidextrous. So you could have a bow that someone could check out you shoot it, and then all we got to do is, get their specs. John can set it up for them, and then we send it out. And it's kind of like the best that we can do, because they're an odd thing, but they shoot fairly well, and it's just a matter. I haven't bought one yet, but now we're gonna have this big lapse between turkey hunting and elk hunting, so I may pick one up in the interim, just in the interest of the podcast.
That I do have. I talked to our pro shop, and as soon as PSC starts shipping bows, I'll have one of the new PSC NTNs coming. So.
Nice. I did get to shoot the Gearhead at the show, and that bow is pretty cool.
Right. I mean,
it's super different. I had to shoot it. Well, how can you see that bow and not pick it up and shoot it? Like, it's the coolest thing in the world. It's this tiny little bow, and all I could think of was, man, if I took this home and my dad saw me shooting this out in the yard, I might get this. So it's bad enough I'm a saddle hunter, and he looks at me like I'm a complete moron. And it didn't shoot terrible. It was super accurate, easy to draw, freaking super easy to shoot. There was hand shock in the bow. What's their 19-inch axle or something crazy? I mean, there's gonna be some, but it shot accurate. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't do us any good if we talk to somebody about something that we haven't tried, and just the fact that I've shot it, honestly, my opinion doesn't mean shit, because, like I said, John's a bow guy, so it's like I could be like, oh yeah, this is cool, but again, just like the saddle, he's like, nope, never gonna do it, never gonna do it, never gonna do it. Buy me two. Like it's just so he's gotta try it
me
first.
too.
No, it's up to how it feels. I mean, it's up to the individual.
And that's a weird thing too, because the issue that we have with John is that his draw length is so long that I have to get a bow that's able to have a draw length out to 31 inches. So it's going to be like the 24, probably, and it's got to have the completely adjustable. It's got to be able to be relevant for John, otherwise it doesn't do any good.
Well, after building everybody's bows, I'm used to shooting. I just built Joe's bow, which is shipping out tomorrow to Colorado. That's a 28-inch draw on that one, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, man.
But
easy. I'm a 27 and a halfer. Okay. Little T-Rex arms.
Oh, you're one of those quarter-inch guys like Austin?
Half, I said.
Come on.
Double his size.
You guys are killing me.
what are you guys using for releases? Are you guys using wrist straps, or are you guys using any thumb releases or back tensioning? What style?
I switched to a thumb release this year. I'm still on the fence with it. I shot my buck with it and did quite a bit of target shooting with it, but I'm still, I guess I haven't really found a solid anchor point with it yet. Like, I haven't found somewhere where I'm really comfortable with it. I found that I shot better with my knuckle as an anchor, but it wasn't really comfortable for me to hold that way. I don't know. I'm still kind of playing around with it, but yeah, I might go back to the wrist strap, and I don't know. It's a 4-finger with the thumb release, but I can't even remember him. I bought a Cabela's, but yeah, it's been an interesting game with it.
One of Scott's, is it? One you bought?
No, it's oh man, I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't go full back tension.
Caliper. Yeah. I tried the thumb release. I tried Austin's. I tried another buddy's. Same thing with me. I played a lot of baseball, and my shoulder, I have a lot of trouble when I guess when you open up and come in this way, it opens up that labrum, which is just horrible. I have a really bad labrum. Or when I'm drawing normal, I feel like more of the pressure's in my back, but it doesn't open up the shoulder as much. So I've always worn just a regular wrist strap caliper style release, That's what's comfortable for me. I can't. I don't know how people shoot with just those little hand releases without a strap around the wrist. I honestly don't. It drives me nuts. Like, I feel like I'm just gonna let go of the thing. And if I'm thinking about that much, what am I gonna be thinking about when a deer's coming in? Like, I would rather just non-instinctly draw with my muscles. I my hand open and draw, and then go through the motion of coming with your rest point, come to your anchor point, and then just squeezing off the trigger. So I don't know. I think that it works best for me personally.
Yeah, that's what matters. So
yeah, and it's a 1902. It might be made from steel from World War II. I have to get my V-loop special made on my strings because the calipers on those things are thick. It's old school, man. Velcro, old school.
Sounds like an old Winfrey.
Or old Cobra.
I have an old Cobra.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Oh,
well,
man.
my dad's original.
Yeah,
Dad.
I mean, John posted a picture not long ago from like the first fucking hand release that you've ever seen, and somebody from Washington, I think, was like, "Can I buy that from you?" It's like a piece of like Americana.
Americana. Put it in a shadow box.
My dad shot. It's the old hot shots, and they used to have like a nylon loop and 2-finger, and they had 3-finger. That's what my dad shot. My dad cut his hand off, almost all the way off when he was a teenager, and when they sewed it back on, he had lost most of his feeling, except for in his thumb, and so that's how he had to shoot. He couldn't shoot fingers or the regular caliper release, so he shot with that old hot shot. And so he had a bunch of them, and so the process I went through was first to start out with the little fiberglass longbow recurve, whatever it was, and when I could hit the target, then I got my first compound bow, but that was just a flipper rest, no sights. It was just all instinctive, and it was like, there's your bow, go shoot, only shoot the target. And I learned the hard way. I shot a rubber football and almost pulled you'll shoot your eye out. It hit the football perfect. It bounced straight back, and the knock hit me right above my eye.
Oh, man.
I had like a snake bite, like right in the top of my eyelid. And my mom was watching out the window when it happened too. Thank God she didn't tell my dad. But
oh, man.
So the progression went on. Then I finally, so you can hit the pie plate on the bail, and then I got one pin, and it was the old brass pin and just a metal bracket. There was no guard or anything. And then I was shooting the finger tabs, and then I got to shoot my dad's release, and it was like, now I'm something. And then it was the old, I think they were called Ted Hines lit pin and a little rheostat. I just cleaned out my drawer and threw the old thing away finally. I should have kept that too.
You should have kept it, man. Shadow box that thing too.
It was a 9-volt battery. 9-volt battery, and then a big old rheostat mounted on that, and one single old fiber optic pin. And you turn that sucker on. I remember the knob would fall off, or you forget to turn the thing off. You get out there, your battery's dead.
I got an old mag light if you're interested.
I got a couple of those too.
John had the stabilizer mount mag light. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that one.
Must be a Michigan thing.
Yeah. That was for bow fishing. What are you talking about?
Oh man.
Yeah. This has been a ton of fun, guys. I don't know if you if this is kind of what you had in mind, Charles, when you were like, hey, if anybody wants to come on the podcast, anybody wants to hang out, and you're like, oh, they got these clowns from Michigan, I guess, take what we can get,
Yeah, you guys were kind of first, so I was like, well, nobody else volunteers, I guess we'll stick with these guys. No, man, it was fun. It's a good conversation. Like I said, you get on with other podcasters, you never know where it's going to go. And it's fun because, we don't really prep for it. You kept asking, I'm like, I don't know, dude. I mean, we'll just talk about whatever comes up because that's what we always do. We don't typically try to keep it too in line with anything because you guys have done this, so you know what you're getting into, and we've done it. We know what we're getting into, and just make it happen.
Yeah. And we got to talk about all the fun stuff. We got to bash on a lot of people like Autin, and all of his deadheads and his wife beating him, and he had to pull out his quarter-incher and finally come in right at the end, and John spoke on this podcast. So I mean, this is a monumental evening.
I like it.
It's been good. We'll have to keep touch, and I'll definitely have to maybe take you up on that offer with the Manus, but I don't know, man. I'm really leaning towards that Phantom, so we'll see. We'll see if stimulus check rounds do make their way to my doorstep. If that happens, game over. Well,
and to be honest, I mean, if it doesn't work out for you, I can always send it to Autin because, he's going to have a child now, and I got to worry about his safety. And at least this one's been tested.
Any day now. I tested the hell out of that thing, man. I'm telling you. Wait till the Tino 2.0 comes out. It's gonna be. And you guys are gonna be begging for one.
And that's the issue, You're just as bad as everybody else on the internet. It's like we just pulled this behind a truck. Like it's not like we have a whole podcast about TMA testing in saddles, Autin. I would direct you towards that.
You got it, dude.
Because it's not just single strength or this or that. I mean, these are real dynamic things. This is your life we're talking about. This is your child's future.
You are certainly correct. You are absolutely correct.
Make sure that life insurance is paid up.
Oh, it is. It is.
Yeah. And how did he die? Oh, yeah. He fucked up his own life by trying out a thing that he tested. And void bonk. Like,
don't jinx me, man. I can't ever sit in it again. Come on.
I'm just saying, insurance companies are not set up to help you out. They are there to take your money.
Oh, damn it, Bobby.
They're declining that one. They're like, wait, he climbed up in the tree with what? We're going to write this one off as suicide, boys.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Not paid.
We're on Saddle Hunter Forum, too. We saw the build process. No. But yeah, guys, so for our listeners or people that are just finding out for this for the first time, where can they follow along with everything that you guys are doing?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Go Wild, anywhere podcasts are found, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all those fun places, at the Whitetail Extraction Podcast.
Wonderful.
What about you guys?
Same here. We got the Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. We got the website, Instagram, Facebook, and then I have the Angler Archer, but I don't post anything on that.
We're working up to it. We're building up our YouTube right now, and John's starting to film his fishing and all of that. We pigeonholed ourselves with this whole bow hunting thing, and that's why I can't bring a shotgun turkey hunting. And so that's why I'm vehemently opposed to anything fishing, any talk. So you guys really touched a nerve earlier, and I might have to edit that part out. So
except for bow fishing, right?
Yeah,
right.
Bow fishing.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to bow fishing this year. I'm truly looking forward to it. It's gonna be a blast.
For sure. But yeah, and for anybody who heard us talk about our Patreons and stuff, so you can check us out at patreon.com/Bowhunter Chronicles podcast. We do quarterly giveaways for like big time shit. So definitely go check that out as well. Hey, that's what I'm here for. So,
I might sign up. You guys are giving some shit away, and I like stuff.
We just gave away a Phantom.
Yep, just gave away a Phantom. We're going to be giving away a Traeger for this quarter, and I'll give you. I'll say it here. I've been going back and forth with them. We're gonna for the third quarter for sure. We're gonna give away a set of bee sticks.
Sweet.
But if the beast stand is out, I'm going to give away one of those too. So
Nice.
it's going to be the full beast hunting package. But if not, I think I may give away 2 sets of beast sticks because they're just looking at like where it falls in.
Very cool.
I better sign up too.
I know.
Yeah.
That's fucking
I'm like, what the hell? You're giving all the shit away and I don't even have it.
Like, hey, you can sign up. It's $5, man. It is $5. So
that ain't shit, man. That's a $15 lotto ticket. Think about it.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we always plug that. We do these same kind of Zoom chats and sit down with our Patreons, and we bring guests on to talk, and just trying to let the listeners that really support us in on kind of like everything we're doing, and like I say, when you listen to podcasts, you feel like you're in the room and you're having that deer camp experience, but to actually say, all right, well, come on and let's have a conversation and be part of it. That's kind of the community that we're trying to build with all that. And if we got to give shit away to have people do that, well, then that's fine too.
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
That's cool. That's a good way to give back to your listeners, and you can never show them enough appreciation. That's what makes us do this, and it makes it possible. So,
right,
that's cool.
For sure. All right, guys,
Really
we appreciate it. I think that's gonna wrap this one up for the evening.
I like it.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
Shut up and sit down.